Good morning. This is the Citrus County Planning and Development Commission public hearing for July 20th, 2023. At this time, if you would like to join us, I invite you to please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, please give us the grace to be understanding, patient, and tolerant. With these attributes, we can conduct our work in a manner which will be pleasing to Thee, our county, and its residents. In the Lord's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. We have a capacity crowd today, and just for the courtesy of the applicants, the board, and those around you, if you could silence any devices that you have. Also remember, when people are at the podium, please show them courtesy and remain quiet so we can maintain order within the room today. If any person decides to appeal any decision made by the commission with respect to any matter considered at this hearing, he or she will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose, he or she may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which record includes testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. During the public input portions of the meeting, individuals are given 3 minutes and members of an organization are given 5 minutes. When anyone wishing to speak comes to the podium, please complete a yellow form and hand it to the recording secretary. Please print your name, address, and the number of the application for which you are speaking on the form. The yellow forms can be found by the podium by the door. If representing an organization, a letter of authorization must accompany the speaker or be on file. Comments will be limited to the topic being heard. Please state your name and give your address for the taped record. Okay, so AA-2023-00004 and V-2023-00001 have requested continuances and will be heard at a future time. We've also had some adjustments to the lineup today. We are going to be hearing CU 2023-00005 first, followed by PUD-2023-00001, and then in conclusion, AA-2023-00003. So, at this time, we will open to the public. Now, this is an opportunity where you can come up here and speak about anything that you have to say to the Planning and Development Commission that's not specifically related to the applications that we will be hearing later. Anyone? Going once, twice, seeing none. We'll close open to the public. We have no minutes to approve. Staff announcements.
You announced everything I needed to. Thank you very much. And the applicants are here for all applications.
Thank you, Joanna. Madam Attorney?
With regard to the applications before you, have you had any ex parte communications you need to disclose for the record? And we'll start with Mr. Dixon.
None.
Site visits.
None.
None.
Site visits.
Site visits? None.
Thank you. Madam Chair, just for housekeeping measures, I told everyone in the hallway that after we concluded these first two applications, we would let the first two applications leave, and then we would have more space for some others.
Okay, very good. If the applicant is present for CU-2023-00005, please come to the podium. And may we have the introduction?
Certainly. CU 2023-00005, Wilburn for Calvary Christian Center Assembly of God. This is a conditional use application for an existing house of worship and future accessory uses to a house of worship. This is an aerial view of all three parcels. This is looking east down East Harley Street. This is a photo looking west down East Harley Street. This is looking north down North Croft Avenue. This is looking south down North Croft Avenue. This is looking east down East Mary Lou Street. This is looking west down East Mary Lou Street. And finally, the site plan submitted by the applicant.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dolan Smith. I'm an associate with local engineering. Dr. Wilburn's unable to be here today, so I'm standing in for him. I've been with him for almost 2 years now. The conditional use before you is for a house of worship to expand their current facility. The existing facility, as you will see on the master plan, is a house of worship with several accessory buildings that have been invested in this community for several decades. The church is growing and at this time is desiring to expand their current sanctuary. The total project area is 14.7 acres, which includes several adjacent parcels of land. We've got Lot 18 and Lot 14. Lot 18 is undeveloped and it's accessed via Croft. Lot 14 is undeveloped. It's accessed from Mary Lou. Based on a historical pattern of houses of worship and residential areas having to come back several times for conditional use approvals, our firm has recently been working with staff on wording which would allow the church to grow without needing to go through the conditional use process, bog down the county's applications, as well as experience time delays. For this reason, we've included the adjacent parcels of land, which are already owned and utilized by the church, and identified for your consideration the specific accessory uses which are attributed to the house of worship and are considered reasonable uses and practices of their worship. This would include playgrounds, food pantry, storage, fellowship halls, educational classrooms, gymnasiums, multi-purpose buildings, outdoor sports, and parking. All of those are considered to be reasonable uses. To date, there have been no public comments on this application. The church has been an excellent neighbor in this community for many, many years and will continue to serve our community well into the future. There is a comment from staff regarding the parking and the septic area. We will have no issues with relocating the existing septic area on site, as well as relocating and adding the parking necessary to meet the criteria set forth in the LDC. This project is serviced by county water. The site currently has an existing drainage retention area which was designed for a much larger development than what was been constructed. We are currently awaiting a swift mud approval on the site without having to expand the existing retention area. We appreciate your consideration in this matter before you and hope that you will look favorably on the church who is trying to expand and be a steward of their current property. We have reviewed the staff conditions in this staff report before you and have no objects complying with the LDC and the recommendations provided with the staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from staff?
Just one. We talked a little bit beforehand. Proposed condition 1 said commonly accepted accessory uses to a house of worship, and we struggled with how subjective that is. I know you just provided a list, so we can put the list in there as bullets rather than commonly accepted accessory uses. You're okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. We want it narrowed down a little bit. That's awfully subjective. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I have one.
Commissioner Bass.
Looking at the site plan, you have a parking aisle nearest whatever the street is on the north side. Is that parking aisle meant to be two-way as it approaches the intersection off of the main road?
Currently, I don't believe there's plans for it to be two-way.
So it'd be one way in or one way out? That last aisle nearest the road.
Are you referring to the proposed sanctuary addition?
I'm referring to that last row of parking that's all the way up parallel to whatever the street is on the north.
Okay, I'm following. Yes, sir. One way in, one way out. It does not loop around.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone? No? Okay, looks like none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we'll have the staff presentation.
You just lost
Just lost your chair. We weren't trying to get you to do. Don't stand up.
Move your feet, lose your seat. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so we are here for conditional use. This is a church in the low-density residential district. It has been a house of worship since 1993.
Could you speak into the
Oh,
microphone?
I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you.
This has been existing as a house of worship since 1993. This is the entire site. You can see that there are residences all around it. This is the entrance to the church. This is, you can see the kids building. The office.
I think we're good. Just speak right into it.
Into this one? Is that
Yeah.
better? Okay. So this is the church site, and the back building there had a prior conditional use for an office.
Melissa, I'm sorry, that's not any better. Can you speak right into the mic on the podium and try that?
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Sound
sorry.
your
I'm not.
outside voice.
I'm not a very loud person. All right. This is the sanctuary, and they are proposing a 30-foot extension to the sanctuary along the front here. Currently, this is the kids' building that is existing. Those are the existing playgrounds. There's one in the front and one in the back. This is the existing lot off East Croft adjacent to the church. And this is the vacant lot off of East Mary Lou. These are some of the residences around the existing church. Those are residences across East Croft. And this is their site plan. And I think we kind of hit on the parking. This row of parking, this concrete paved area is not there currently. The existing septic is right in here, I believe. And then the new septic is proposed to be over here on the side.
Sir, excuse me, sir. We're not taking questions from the public at this time. You could ask a question when we open it up.
Okay, so as you can see, currently, they show an expansion to the sanctuary to increase seating and move the septic out of the parking. The expansion will require 120 spaces. If that first row is put in, they will meet that 120 spaces. So the combined parcels are, the vacant parcels are almost 10 acres with a myriad of uses. Limitations would be that of the lot, your ISR, which it would be a total of 35%. Due to the undisclosed timeline, size, placement, and future accessory uses, staff is unable to determine the impact and compatibility along the neighboring residences at this time. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the applicant? All right, thanks. Any questions from the board? I have one. I just want you to clarify, we have a site plan here, and there was some vagueness about accessory uses, which Joanna asked about. So we're approving this site plan, or we're approving this site plan plus an ability for them to permit additional accessory uses at another time?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Although the applicant provided a specific list. So I don't know if we need those repeated, but it was things like a playground and some other things like that I heard him. If you need those, multi-purpose room, I heard outdoor, outside gym, outside fields. So the condition would have those specific bullet points rather than any commonly accepted accessory uses, which is where we were struggling.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other questions? I see none. Thank you. The public portion of the meeting will now be opened. If there is anyone present in favor of the application who would like to speak, please come forward to the podium. As a reminder, individuals have 3 minutes to speak and organizations have 5 minutes. When speaking on this application, please address the board. If you have any documents you want to be entered into the record, please provide a copy to the recording secretary. Anyone in favor of this application, please come to the podium. Going once? Oh, here we go. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, commissioners. My name is Otis Barnett. I'm the senior pastor at Calvary Christian Center, commonly known as Calvary Church. And I just wanted to make just one small clarification. The existing placement of the septic is actually in front of our existing sanctuary. There's a pump there, and we're just going to what we're asking to be able to do is just move that to the side of the building. It's not digging up parking lots and that kind of thing. So we've been a growing church as far back as 2020 is when we had to go to 3 services. We believe strongly in reaching the community, and doing so it has made us a place where we have fit people as in many ways as we can, while reaching the next generation and really believing in our kids. So we're just looking to take advantage at this time of being able to expand our existing sanctuary, build a new lobby, which causes us to be able to increase our capacity by about 30%, and which would make it possible for us to just do 2 services on a Sunday rather than 3. So we're honored to be a part of this community. We love it dearly, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Can you just clarify and point out on that, because this gentleman over here had a question about the septic?
Oh,
Can you be a little bit more specific about what's
Sure.
happening?
Actually, if you look at the arrow, the top arrow that is pointing directly down, that arrow actually points directly toward where that existing septic area is, and that would just be allocated over to that field would be allocated over to the side of the building, and so we're going to be the plan is to put in new bathrooms and just to slide that over so we can expand 30 feet out, making it a little bit more feasible for the transition between services, making it just a better experience overall who people are coming to worship. So hopefully that gives some clarity there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in favor of this application? Anyone? Going once, twice, 3 times, seeing none. Anyone opposed to the application, please come to the podium. Anyone opposed?
Yes, my name is Terry Franker. I live on Croft Avenue. I am not opposed to anything that the church wants to do there. My concern is the traffic on Croft. There was rumors that there was going to be a school built there on that property. I think that would increase the traffic flow on Croft, which was supposed to have been 4-laned before Walmart, before Lowe's, and we're sitting there. The traffic is unbelievable on that road now. And I'm certainly not against the church. I think they're a wonderful organization. But my concern, like I say, is the traffic that would be generated if a school was built. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else opposed to the application?
As far as the septic goes.
Sir, could you please state your name and address for the tape
Richard,
record?
I'm the neighbor right to the left of this sanctuary building. Now you're saying the septic is the upper arrow, so the septic is in the front of the sanctuary? And you're expanding 30 feet out in
Sir,
front
could
of
you
the
address
sanctuary,
the
so you're gonna
board?
be building right over top of the septic.
Sir, could you address the board, please?
Well,
it's-
from what he's saying is, he's expanding 30 feet out in front of the sanctuary building, right on top of their existing septic, correct?
Sir, this is really your opportunity to share your opinion on the application, not for a question and answer back and forth. I'm sorry.
All right, well, I've never heard of putting a building over top of a leach field or a septic tank, you know?
Okay.
Just to be clear, he's moving the septic. That was the part I tried to get him to explain to you. The septic is being moved.
Moved.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
To where?
To somewhere on the property, on his own property.
Thank you. Anyone else opposed to the application? Anyone? Going once, twice, seeing none. Okay, at this time, we will close the public portion of the meeting for this application and bring the discussion to the board. Anyone want to start?
For the purpose of a motion,
Commissioner Bramlett.
we're going to say amended conditions.
Yes, condition number 1 would be amended with that bullet list that he spoke about.
Thank you. The Planning and Development Commission finds application number CU-2023-0005 consistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and the Citrus County Land Development Code, and that this board approves with conditions amended number 1, the application based upon the evidence and testimony presented, the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition. It has been determined that approving the proposed conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest, that there is compliance with special rules governing individual conditional uses of the type involved, that the proposed development with conditions and safeguards attached would be generally compatible with the adjacent properties and other property in the district, and that the PDC is empowered under the section of the LDC described in the application to grant this conditional use.
We have a first by Commissioner Bramlett, a second by myself, Commissioner Worthington. Any further discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bass.
I would just like a clarification on page 4, at the top of the page. It says no buffers are being shown on the submitted site plan. A type A buffer is required to the north abutting East Harley Street, and a type C buffer is required on the west abutting residential. Joanna, our conditions cover that need to have that buffers in place?
Correct.
Thank you.
Condition number 3.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. If the applicant is present for PUD 2023-000001, please come to the podium. May we have the introduction, please?
PUD 2023-000001, 2023 Norvell Bryant LaCanto LLC for CR 486 LLC, LaCanto West. This request is to establish a PUD for a commercial center consisting of a big box retail building and 5 out parcels. Aerial view of the subject property. View of the subject property from County Road 486. Looking west on County Road 486. Looking east on County Road 486. Looking across County Road 486. And the master plan submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. McGregor Love, 215 North Yola Drive, Orlando, Florida, here on behalf of the applicant. I know that you have a long day ahead of you. We concur with staff's recommendation. I do have a presentation which I can go through if staff could pull that up. And,
Absolutely.
And Ms. Hoover, I'll let the commission know, the plan that we submitted with our application has some information on it that's not totally final right now. So when I get to that part, if you could switch back to the one that you have in yours,
Just let me know.
I'll let you know. Appreciate it. So this is the subject property. It's just to the west of the Norvell Bryant Highway and LaCanto Highway. It's 17.4 acres, and future land use and zoning is general commercial. You remember this plan development, I am sure. This is directly to the east, and so this is sort of a natural phase 2 of this overall development. This is the phase 1, we'll call it master plan. It was approved by the Board of County Commissioners in June of last year. It has 10 retail or commercial lots, 135,000 square foot anchor store, which is Target, and a maximum impervious surface ratio of 80%. So I'll ask Ms. Hoover to go to the plan on your presentation. You could just briefly describe the master plan. No problem. While Ms. Hoover's pulling that up, so the phase 2, as we're calling it, master plan, is 86,000 square foot retail building. You can see that at the sort of north end of the project plan there. It's a multi-tenant building. It has 5 commercial out parcels, and the access to County Road 46 and County Road 491 are via this sort of joint access drive that you can see there connecting to the Phase 1 project to the east. We concur with all of staff's imposed conditions with one small note, which is condition number 4. There was a request for, the master plan reflected a 5-foot type A buffer along that stormwater pond you see there at the northwest of the property. And staff asked for a 15-foot type C buffer in its recommendation and condition. Our understanding is that staff supports and it doesn't have an issue with a 5-foot type A buffer. I'll let staff comment on that, but it's right there along that stormwater pond, and there's obviously the entire length of the pond there to the west, which is why we've asked for a decreased buffer along that area. I'm here to answer any questions you have. We have our project developer and engineer. They're here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from staff?
I'm sorry, based on the modified condition, it looks like for condition number 4, we just removed the whole first sentence and rely to the buffers that are on your master plan. I think that's what you're actually wanting.
Correct.
Okay. So proposed condition 4, we would strike the first sentence, and we have no objection to that.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
I have questions.
Commissioner Bramlett.
The 3 deviations that were in the original plan, now you are not asking for those deviations. Do I understand that correctly?
And which deviations are those specifically?
Reduced parking for the big box retail, 306 spaces instead of the required 344. Reduced side rear parking for big box application provides 5.5% parking instead of 20. And the signage deviation.
I'll ask just you to clarify. That's correct, right? Sorry. Okay. Yeah, so we are still asking for numbers 1 and 2 that you just read. Number 3, we're still working with staff and not requesting at this time.
The signage.
Correct.
Okay, because I remember the signage was a big talking point
Yes.
at the last meeting, and I think whatever was agreed upon per that plan, if we can kind of stick with that with this one,
Right.
I think that would make the most sense. And then as far as the other deviations, I'll wait to hear from staff on those.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Looking at the overall site plan and looking at traffic impact, let's start with the parking situation. In the Bowler letter that's dated April 7th, it says the proposed development can only provide 306 parking spaces. Can you explain why you can only provide 306 parking spaces?
Well, the practical sort of layout of the site, and with access and with the requirement for impervious surface area. I mean, the more parking spaces you have, the more impervious area you have. When you couple that with the sort of landscape islands that code requires as well, you get a number around 306. And we think that this reduction is reasonable given the practical parking demand that we anticipate.
Okay. Looking at the traffic report, I noticed that the level of service for the left turn into the development, let me go back, let me restart. So your traffic engineer looked at the site generated traffic for this particular development. With this having a shared driveway, why did they not look at the traffic impact associated with both developments using that one single driveway? Underneath the single development, this whole site, the left turn into the site is already operating at level service F. Now, if we add the development traffic from parcel or phase 1, that's going to work even more terrible. The overall intersection operations level service E to begin with now with just this. So if we add phase 1 and phase 2, I think you created us an operational problem at that intersection of Walmart, Norvell, Bryant, and your parcel. I would like to know why there was not more investigations to the impact on the county roads.
Will, do you think you're able to speak to the sort of methodology that went into that? And I'll just say at the outset that, right now there's a traffic report that looks into various uses that could be on the property. Of course, when we go in for the next phase of permitting, that's when these tenants will actually be put into the individual out parcels. And those tenants, based on what they are, will have a different traffic demand. So right now, it's not finalized what that traffic impact will look like. But I do take your point, Commissioner Bass, that
Thank you.
there is we know that there's going to be a set list of potential uses. So I don't mean to discredit your point.
If I may, Commissioner Bass, also, some of the suggested conditions which they've agreed to are to produce a revised traffic study and basically saying that this traffic study that was provided is not adequate, so.
I understand that, but again, I'm just trying to understand why they didn't provide us with a more comprehensive look as to what this is going on. So as we, the commissioners, approve this, we really have an overall view of what may happen. Because once it leaves our hands, then it's in staff's hands, and things may change significantly. And I think we as commissioners deserve the right to know what it is that we are approving.
True.
Good morning, Will Anderson, 102nd Avenue South, St. Pete. I represent the developer of this project along with Phase 1. We're happy to be in front of you today for Phase 2. Commissioner Bass, you make excellent points. And one of the reasons staff did make a condition that we have to double the turn lane size from 335 feet, I believe, 300 feet to 650 feet. So that's doubling the turn lane, so doubling the capacity of the left in at that intersection. That's quite a significant change. So that's number one. Number two, McGregor made a great point that this is a snapshot of the overall development. As we come in for engineering, we'll be able to hone in a little bit more on the exact uses that are proposed, especially along the out parcels, whether we have some fast food or sit-down restaurants, definitely different traffic generators, et cetera. So we'll be able to fine-tune that a little bit more. And I think our traffic engineer, they're asked to provide per county standards the traffic study that was accepted by staff. So if there's something that needs to be different about that traffic study and that traffic report and how the methodology, then we can talk about that. But he did it per the county standards, and definitely agree with you that we definitely need to take a look at this a little bit deeper, which we will do through permitting.
Okay.
So hopefully that answered your questions.
Okay, do I still have the floor?
Yes.
So have you taken a look at what the impact is going to be at that T intersection that is created where you can turn left to Phase 2 and turn right to Phase 1 as far as what traffic control is going to be at that intersection? Is it going to be stop signs? Are you looking at a roundabout? Because I have a concern, and I don't know if any of the other commissioners do, is there a potential for traffic to queue from that T intersection out towards Norvell Bryant, which then creates an operational issue for the county? Oops, sorry.
No problem at all. So yes, that driveway location was definitely considered. As you can see, it's actually pushed back a little bit further than the Phase 1 driveway is. You can see that little jog there. It's pushed back a little bit further to have a T intersection there with the adjacent development, possibly the development to the north. That was looked at. That is quite a long distance. I believe that's when you're analyzing these intersections, you analyze what's in the turn lane as well, as you understand, before it spills into the actual right-of-way. So I believe that we have at least 550 feet there. It's quite a bit of room. I'd have to get the math together exactly, but it was analyzed.
Okay.
From that perspective.
All right, thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other questions from the board? My question was asked and answered about signage. I know there was a lot of conversation at the BOCC meeting during Phase 1 application process, and so you're agreeing to that now. Hopefully y'all get that worked out on the back end.
Absolutely. Yes, we agree with staff's condition of 2 master development signs for the project. We understand and we agree.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
The public portion of the meeting will now be opened. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Sorry, I forgot about you. Now we'll hear from staff.
You're just testing us, right? Make sure we're
2 sides.
Good morning.
Good
Joe
morning.
Hockadell, Principal Planner with Land Development. This application is to establish a planned unit development on this portion of the subject property for retail type uses. It is general commercial, and as the applicant stated, it's kind of the last little section of this northwest corner that is yet to be planned out and or developed. So here's the master plan. You can see they're proposing an 86,000 square foot retail building on the north side of this application with 5 out parcels. As stated, it is proposed to take access from these 2 adjacent access points, so it does not have any access directly off of 486 itself. There are some deviations being requested as part of this application. One of them is an 80% ISR application wide, which is very similar to what we saw with the adjacent shops at Black Diamond plan unit development. They're also requesting a 15-foot type D buffer with a fence on the north property line where it's going to abut residential, which also is very similar to what the shops at Black Diamond was approved with. And they're also requesting a 5-foot type A between the drainage retention area and the access drive, which is this portion right here. So that is something that the applicant is requesting. The 15-foot type C is what's required. Staff put that in the condition because it is one of the main access drives that's going to be for this development, adjacent development, and the residences to the back. But if the board wishes to reduce that to what is shown on the master plan, staff has no concern with that. There is a deviation, which I believe is addressed in engineering or technical services conditions about the internal driveway spacing not matching up with the traffic analysis, but they have indicated they'll have to provide an updated traffic analysis for this site. They have requested reduced parking and loading and to not have at least 20% of the required parking on the side or rear, which is what the Land Development Code requires. And the deviation for signage is to exceed the number, have them in the landscape buffers, and have reduced setbacks. But the applicant has addressed those deviations in their presentation. So the application does meet concurrency requirements, and it does appear to be compatible with the surrounding area. And so we do have suggested conditions.
Thank you, Joe. Do you have any questions for staff? Board, do you have any questions for staff? Looks like you're good to go. Thanks. Okay. At this time, we will open the public portion of the meeting. If there's anyone present in favor of the application who would like to speak, please come forward to the podium. Anyone in favor? Going once, twice, seeing none. If there's anyone opposed to the application, please come forward to the podium. Individuals have 3 minutes to speak, and members of an organization are granted 5 minutes. When speaking on the application, please address the board. Anyone opposed?
Hi, my name is Mike Rivers. I live at 4417 North Shawnee Drive in Beverly Hills. I don't know that I'm actually opposed to it, but he stated that he's going to reduce the number of parking spaces. I couldn't tell whether he was creating more green space or converting the parking spaces into another building. And really, if it's another building, then I would be opposed to it. If it's more green space, then fine.
Thank you. Anyone else opposed to the application? Anyone? Going once, twice, seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. Does the applicant want to respond to the one?
Again, for the record, McGregor Love. Ed, as I mentioned in my explanation of parking, the idea of providing, as you can see on the plan there in front of you, those landscaped aisles that, that is area that's green, it's pervious. Certainly, if you removed all of those, you'd have more parking spaces. But that is what code requires. We think that's what's best for the project. So that is why we have a reduced parking number from 344 to 306. I hope that answers this question.
Thank you. Okay, the public portion is closed and we'll bring the discussion back to the board. Would anyone like to start?
Yeah, I'd just say I'm in favor. The only question I have is like have the rest of the board comment on the condition number 4 with the 15-foot wide type C buffer around the stormwater area. If it's required by the LDC, do we make the deviation?
Thank you, Commissioner Bramlett. I'll comment on that because I too was thinking about it, looking at it backing up against MDR. So you have basically stormwater, which is green open space, backing up to multifamily PUD. I mean, staff supports it. The law is 15 type C. I mean, I guess I'll hear other opinions too.
I don't have an opinion on the buffer so much. I have an opinion on the parking as well as their traffic report and the overall traffic operations. I'm not satisfied with the information that was provided to us in the beginning. I think it wasn't sufficient enough. Our staff has noted that they have kind of like an offset intersection at the entrance there, which is not a great thing to do. The parking, I think if they maybe reduce the size of one of their out parcels, they can provide the spaces that are needed. They could adjust that intersection. I'm in favor of the project in its mass, but I'm not in favor of how they put together their operational standpoint from a traffic standpoint or their parking.
Any other discussion from the board? Commissioner Facemeyer?
I support the project. The buffer in question, I think would be better served if it were what staff requires, but I would support the project either way.
Okay, anyone else have an opinion? We're inconclusive on buffers, I think, at this moment. Anyone? No? Okay. I'm getting a motion. We getting a consensus here? Let's go. I'm fine with going with what is suggested, the 5.
Yeah, so the other part, it's not just along the what would be the north boundary along that stormwater. They're actually talking about adjacent access drives, parking areas, and improved right-of-ways. So it would be around that entire stormwater area right there is what they're talking about.
To the west and the north, basically.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Mr.
Yep.
I can't remember McGregor.
I think you might be getting a concession.
Yeah. I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, once again, for the record, McGregor Love, and I apologize if the proposal was confusing, but the buffer to the north, which is 15 foot, as a type D, is that it?
C.
Or type C, that's not being proposed to change. The only change would be along the western and eastern boundary of the stormwater ponds, just for clarity.
And you're doing that because why? Because you just don't want to plant the additional plantings or the spacing?
Well, just from a practical standpoint, there's a large stormwater pond that is, adjacent to either a parking lot or, a road right of way. We didn't see a practical purpose for there to be a larger buffer between the adjacent parking lot and the right of way. Again, if that's not the opinion of this board, we understand that, we respect that, but that was the methodology and the thinking that we made the request with.
Understood. Thank you. The only thing I'll say is that the LDC requires it. They have the ability to put it in. We're trying to keep the nature in the nature coast, keep things looking aesthetically pleasing. If there was a reason that they put it in there originally, then I support the reason. If the applicant supports it, then I think that we should just leave the 15-foot type C.
Okay. We have a motion? Can't find the page.
For the purpose of a motion,
Commissioner Bramlett?
the Planning and Development Commission finds application number PUD-2023-00001 consistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and with the Citrus County Land Development Code, and that this board recommends approval with the conditions as discussed of the application to the Board of County Commissioners based upon the evidence and testimony presented and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition.
Thank you. We have a first by Commissioner Bramlett,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Spacewire. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, can
Commissioner
we just
Bass.
get a clarification on how condition number 4 will actually now read
As it's read,
as it is printed?
yes.
Okay, just want to verify that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, oh, sorry, did you have something? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
So motion carries 6-1. Thank you.
Madam Chair, do you mind taking a brief recess so we can reconfigure the room?
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to recess for 10
10
minutes and return here at 10 o'clock. Well, it's 13 minutes.
Tim, Chair.
He just stepped out. He wasn't. The Amber West one?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome again. We're going to try to reconvene here. So I just want to mention again that the other Pine Ridge application, AA-2023-00004, has requested a continuance and will be heard at another date. So at this time, if the applicant is present for AA-2023-00003, if you could please come to the podium.
Ma'am.
Oh, and I'm sorry, 1 second, Chuck, Madam Attorney, you have some housekeeping.
Yes, just for the record, Madam Chair and board members, just so we kind of summarize what's happened today in the facilities. This application has garnered quite an interest of the public, and we were pretty much inundated with many individuals coming to want to attend the hearing. So for the board's reference, what staff has done is we have accommodated upstairs in the overflow room some individuals where there is full audio and video. We've also accommodated just about as many people as we can in this room. We've had we have a fire inspector on site who is going between two rooms in order to make sure that we don't exceed any of our the fire code limitations. But I did want to report to the board, we have successfully accommodated everyone who has come into the building who has wanted to attend this hearing in either this room or upstairs. We've added extra chairs and we've allowed people to stand. So I just want to make sure the board understands that anybody who wanted to attend this hearing who came through our front doors has been accommodated. I don't know whether Mr. Stillwell on behalf of the applicant or Mr. Weiner on behalf of his clients wish to make any housekeeping matters entered into the record. We do have a court reporter here today, so you might want to give them an opportunity if they wanted to say anything for the record.
Okay, thank you, Madam Attorney. Mr. Stillwell?
Yeah, it's ready to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
And Mr. Weiner?
Oh, Mr. Weiner.
For the record, Michael Weiner.
Oh, I'm
Weiner's-
sorry.
Weiner's good enough, as long as you don't call me late for dinner, that's all. I'm sorry. Happy to be here today. My client is the Pine Ridge Association. I am not certain if you're asking only for information with respect to the capacity and the people who are here, County Attorney. So I only want to address what you would want me to address in this preliminary. This doesn't waive any of the other opportunities to reach the microphone. So what would you like me to address?
This doesn't waive any other opportunities. We were asking if you wanted to add anything into the record regarding the capacity.
Regarding the capacity, we have nothing further to add into the record.
Thank you very much. Okay, now if the applicant is present, may we have the introduction, please?
Madam Chair, just as another housekeeping, excuse me. We are recording this for later broadcast on YouTube, and you people right there, and specifically, I'm sorry to point out you, sir, with sunglasses, you are on screen all the time. So just let you know, if you stand up, move, because you would be blocking the podium. Y'all are front and center with our camera, so FYI, you're on it all the time. Thank you.
Okay, may we have the introduction, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, everybody.
Application AA 2023-00003 for Pine Ridge Reserve. This application proposes to change 221.9 acres on the Pine Ridge Unit 3 master plan. The application would change the master plan designation from golf course use to single-family residential use for up to 85 units. The application would access from North Elkham and 2 smaller streets and proposes platted gated roadways. The site would use the now closed golf course. This is the master plan submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pigeon? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you all. And nice crowd. We'll try to provide a bunch of information and try to straighten out a lot of misinformation that's been put out there. So for the record, Chuck Pigeon with Pigeon Ardora, Ocala address, professional address 925 Southeast 17th Street, Ocala, Florida. Professional engineer in the state of Florida. I have a brief presentation to go ahead and introduce you and allow for more feedback on the project. I'm sure you've all done a whole lot of homework on this one. So with that, this is Pine Ridge Reserve. As staff had mentioned, the golf course is no longer a golf course and is closed for a number of reasons, the least of which is the financial hardship of the previous owner trying to support a golf course in that location. So if you would go to the next slide, please. Staff already mentioned where this is, but just point out a few things. This is approximately about a mile west of North Lecanto Highway.
Mr. Pigeon, I think if you could talk directly into the mic, we do have a full house.
Let me try getting closer. Is that better?
Use your outside voice.
Outside voice. Okay, thank you.
No, no. Oh, I have a weekend kid.
Okay, so this is about a mile west of North Lecanto Highway. It is near both Elkham Boulevard and West Pine Ridge Boulevard. Both of those boulevards are collector roadways, and the primary access for Pine Ridge Reserve is off of North Elkham Boulevard. Next slide. So a little bit more about the residential development itself. The property itself is around 221 acres of ownership area. Proposed is 85 one-acre estate homes, which would occupy about 102 acres of the property. These are private road planned subdivision with amenities. There's over 120 acres of open space to remain, which exceeds 50% of the property. Overall, there's around 14,500 lineal feet of trails and almost 3 miles worth of trails that would remain. We'll go into a little more of that in a little more detail. So the proposed lots are predominantly where the former and currently sitting there structure of the clubhouse, the parking lots, the maintenance barns, the maintenance storage areas, and the driving range itself. That's where predominantly the land is proposed to be used for the residential home sites. We have limited signage on the property. We'll go into that in more detail later. The lots have been grouped into clusters where possible, and we've looked to plan most of them with cul-de-sacs, which is the preferred and the safest type of community that we currently now plan for. The site has been a master plan with stormwater management areas, and those have been positioned obviously for stormwater collection and flood protection, but also to provide additional buffering and additional open space. Next slide, please. So talk a little bit about traffic operations and access. We mentioned that the 2 primary accesses for this property would be off of Elkham Boulevard, right where the current access point is for the former golf course. Elkham Boulevard and West Pine Ridge Boulevard are both collector roadways. They are 100-foot wide right-of-way and the pavement widths and the traffic capacities are built to county standards. And it was originally built and designed and planned for, a viable, well-thriving golf course, including restaurant and including the other amenities on this property. So there are secondary accesses for a couple of pocket areas of residential lots, which has just standard street access. The overall 85 homes would generate around 84 trips per day, peak hour. And typically, if it's less than 100 trips per day, it's pretty much considered not a significant impact. The peak hour, just so you know, would be around 50 trips entering. It's a PM peak hour, and about 30 trips leaving. So it's a total, what comes in and what goes out, all in a matter of 1 hour. It would be around 80 trips during peak time. In comparison to a 18-hole golf course, and just an 18-hole golf course, they produce around 50 to 55 trips per hour. That doesn't include, on this property, the additional 9-hole golf course doesn't include anything to do with the restaurant or the leading establishments. So in essence, it's basically a break even, same number of trips and traffic. Just want to mention the two primary gate access access locations would be gated. We'll go into that a little bit more later also. All the streets, within the project would be meet county standards. We'll go into more of the detail of that here in just a moment. You want to go to the next slide? This community is planned and would be designed with amenities, and the amenities used to include in neighborhoods other things like golf courses, but that has now been decreasing substantially throughout the United States. Since 2006 has been on a decline. Hence the reason the need to close golf courses. There's been hundreds of golf courses closed in the country and in Florida since 2006. So this community amenities looked in a different direction. We have the gated access, and it's a discreet, lower profile appearance with heavy landscaping, as you can see from the photo, the artist rendering of the entrance. But it is, to provide additional protection for the residents inside, just to control entry and exit into the two primary areas of the community. Community facilities would involve a separate building with meeting rooms, a pavilion, so they could have some outdoor family gatherings and barbecues and equipment restrooms, possibly a pickleball area. Obviously, there's a lot of open space for fields, for any kind of field activities or field gatherings. Community would be equipped and maintain the trails and paths, as we mentioned, over just under 3 miles of trails and paths. Those would be golf cart use, bicycles, walking, hiking. The restrooms that were there would be renovated, so they'd still include restrooms and some facilities for those that would want to use the trails, and the portion of the project that would remain park. There'd be a series of community little pocket parks. There's a little picture, for example, of a little pocket park area with park benches and trees where you put those near retention ponds or perhaps near the mailbox stations, those type of things. We mentioned streets and sidewalks. In this community would be sidewalks on both sides of the roadway. The lighting would be pedestrian level lighting, the lower level lighting where the sidewalks are lit, but not necessarily the whole road. Be on, say both sides of the road for both sidewalks. Next slide, please. So the residential neighborhood itself, we mentioned it was a gated community. The deed restrictions, covenants, conditions would be fairly strict, and I would say meet or exceed the restrictions of Pine Ridge that are there. We've read through those. They look to have an earth tone color palette for the project, and this is really more for estate type homes. We mentioned the sidewalks and street lamps. This is a broadest rendering of the typical street. You can see sidewalks, you can see the lower level lighting, you can see the curb and gutter streets and roadways, and landscaping within the private right-of-way, as well as the estate homes themselves, just to meet deed restrictions. The community standards would be set up in addition to the deed restrictions and covenants. That'd be a 50% maximum impervious area per lot, which matches exactly to the Pine Ridge community right now. There'd be a minimum 100-foot wide lot at the setback line. There'd be a minimum 40-foot frontage, so the houses would have to sit back 40 feet from the street side, 25-foot side yard and 25-foot rear yard setback, with exception if you had a pool enclosure, code does allow 15-foot setback. But these are 1-acre lots, and I don't believe in very many places throughout entire Pine Ridge with their screen enclosures within 15 feet of the rear lot line. Maximum 2-story homes, and then there's no on-street parking would be designed at all. And once again, these are estate homes. Next slide. We'll talk about infrastructure a moment for the area. Utilities would be a drinking water system by Citrus County Public Utilities. That would provide both fire protection as well as drinking water. Just as an example, the homes themselves, 85 homes, would use on an average about 30,000 gallons of water per day. The golf course right now, or when it was operating throughout the years, has an average of about 200,000 gallons per day of water use. There was a consumptive use water use permit issued for 223,000 gallons per day of water use. So this substantially reduces the amount of water that's sucked out of the aquifer every day with the 85 homes as opposed to the golf course. As 1-acre lots, state allows and code allows for on-site septic tanks. We would use advanced waste treatment septic tanks for this community. There'd be underground power, street lighting we already talked about, and fiber internet services. As far as the vehicles and pedestrian facilities, we would have county code compliant roads.
Mr. Pigeon, would you mind postponing the rest of for just a moment? We have technical issues upstairs.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
Thanks. We want to make sure people upstairs can hear and see too, and apparently there's suddenly a problem.
Okay, very good. Okay. One more minute, yeah.
Talk to the county planning.
I know.
Never produced a map without retention ponds. I've never produced a map like that.
I just wondered who's going to order pizza. That's all. I said, I just wondered who's going to order pizza.
Everything else?
Not anymore. I don't have enough for the whole class.
So, I saw the back of the truck.
Did she just say she's getting too old?
That's what I think.
And I joked with her, I said, I'm 35, but I'm with
So
you.
many people are already employed and don't even want to change problems.
Oh, listen. I tell everybody, I look youthful, but inside, I feel older than you, I promise. My bones, my hips, my knees, you would think I was like a retired like sports star or something, but I'm not.
So we are at a disadvantage, and then, you know, you have young people who for a long time
My wife called me out the other day, because she goes, get out of bed. I was like, dang, I gotta call me out on that. No, you don't. And I looked over and I go, she goes,
because for these guys, when my husband retired, when that,
I was like, it's all right, man. Your day's coming.
you know,
Yeah,
like,
one day.
there really is a
Let's go back there,
serious
'cause I didn't start on you. That's
I can remember when I started working at one place.
now you're telling me to get up. I'm like, oh no, she was right.
I'm old school. My wife was irked at me and sport. Get up, you know, just what we're down to get in the shop. She says,
I know, the kid.
oh, yeah. Let me tell you about the dream I just had. And I said, and I was nice about it. And I'm capable of not being nice. But I said, is this going to be a long explanation or a short? She said, never mind.
That means long.
Right?
Protecting.
Oh.
No. Yes, ma'am. So observant.
Bless you.
I mean, he's only been talking for 10
Actually, that
minutes.
won't get pretty good.
We get paid.
Not really. All right, so
I mean, you just
you
look
heard
above
that
their
sneeze
heads.
from me. My mom did that, and my mom was 5
I don't
foot
know.
tall.
We all need to drink.
Like I was afraid, like when she sneezed, it she'd get blown across the room, you know, from the backlash.
He's only been talking for 10 minutes. It's not a big deal.
Can we start? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, we are going to try to do this again. Unfortunately, the feed has not been working during Mr. Pigeon's entire presentation, so we are going to have to ask you to start from the beginning. Please. The first time was just practice. Here we go again.
It
Good
was
morning.
such a good job the first time. Let me try to remember if I say the same thing, hopefully. But it is
But
recorded.
talk louder.
I will try. I feel like I'm screaming into this phone. but-
You're not.
Outside voice.
All right. Once again, for the record, my name is Chuck Pigeon, professional engineer, state of Florida. Professional address 925 Southeast 17th Street, Ocala, Florida. Company name Pigeon Adora LLC. Here to tell you today about Pine Ridge Reserve. We have a short presentation, and we'd like to be available to answer any questions, maybe set a lot of records straight. From what I've read, both newspaper, blogs, and letters, there seems to be a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of unfortunate errors in providing information. So hopefully that clears this up. First slide, please. Staff had noted where this site is. I just want to point out that this is about 1 mile west of North Lecanto Highway, and it is adjacent to North Elkham Boulevard and very close to West Pine Ridge Boulevard, and both of those roadways are collector roadways for this area. Next slide. The community itself, talk about residential development, a little bit about itself. The property, overall property size is 221 acres of ownership area. We're proposing 85 one-acre estate lots on 102 acres of property, of which that would take that portion of it. This is a private road subdivision with amenities. There are over 120 acres planned for open space, most of it to remain natural or in its existing state for reserve of natural property. There are over 14,500 lineal feet of trails proposed, most of which were the former golf cart paths and trails. That's a little under 3 miles of trails and roadways. Trails and paths. The proposed lots are predominantly where the golf clubhouse and the parking lot and the maintenance barn and the maintenance area and the storage area were, including the practice range area. So it's predominantly the group of lots in the center of this development plan is where there's already disturbed or already buildings and features there. There are limited signage at the entrance. We'll go into that in a little more detail in a moment. Lots are grouped into clusters, and we try to work with good current modern design practices of formulating cul-de-sacs, which is the predominantly preferred type of residential development now. Cuts down on a lot of things and makes it much safer for communities, including traffic calming and traffic operations in neighborly community areas. Stormwater management has been designed and planned for this property, and we've looked to not only capture and take care of stormwater and flood conditions and protect the off-site properties, but also to provide them in locations where they could provide additional buffering and additional amenities for the adjacent property owners. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about traffic operations and traffic access. This 85 single-family detached homes we use, as we mentioned, the primary access routes from LCAM and some secondary access routes off the side streets. So the two primary access locations are gated, and there would be, we'll talk about the gates and give you information about that in a moment. The street access and all streets within the development would meet County Land Development Code standards for both design and spacing of the intersections, and what's been planned and designed on this master plan meets that criteria. So from the 85 detached single-family homes, it's the peak hour, evening PM peak hour traffic would be actually 84 vehicles per hour, so roughly around 80 vehicles per hour. Of those 80, 50 would be entering and 30 would be exiting. As we mentioned, the roadways are built to major collector roadway standards. There are 100-foot wide right-of-ways, 24-foot wide pavement. They were designed and originally planned for the overall traffic operations of the area, including the golf course. So just as information, the golf course itself, just the 18 holes would produce around 53 trips per hour. That doesn't include the additional 9 holes that are approved and planned and built for this. Doesn't include anything about the restaurant. So when you add restaurants, you add the additional 9 holes, you add the current 18 holes, basically it's a break even in terms of traffic. And in fact, the way this master plan is set up, there's fewer lots and fewer traffic that would actually access the same point on LCAM than what's produced by the golf course traffic. So the traffic would actually be equal or less on LCAM. Next slide, please. Community amenities, we include a series of amenities, and I think we had mentioned that within the country and within the state of Florida, amenities of building golf courses and new communities has been really tailed off. Since 2006, the golf course and golf play has continuously decreased. There's been a number of golf courses, a little over 200 golf courses been closed. Florida has seen the brunt of most of that just because of no one supporting the golf course and that as a business cannot survive. So this community steps in to try to salvage the best of both worlds, both open space and provide some relief and for our community. We mentioned the gated entry access. We would have a discrete lower profile appearance with heavy landscaping On this photo is the artist rendering of what the entrance would look like. We have community facilities, which include meeting rooms, pavilions, barbecues, maybe like gatherings, family events, family serving that would be able to be conducted there on the property. And then obviously there's a lot of open space, which would be fields, and activities could be played and done in field format. We mentioned trails and paths, which uses most of the golf cart paths for biking, hiking, walking. Be a series of community pocket parks. There's an example of one in the photo rendering there of a little pocket park with park benches and a place to just relax. The systems itself would look to utilize and renovate the bathrooms that are on the property. So although it's long and linear trails and walkways, there would still be amenities for the users. Streets and sidewalk lighting, we had mentioned, and I'll go into a little more detail, will be addressed here next. So if you can switch to the next slide. So the residential neighborhood itself, as we previously noted, is a gated access community. They would have color palettes and a appearance of earth tone colors. They would be all restricted by deeds and covenants. The deeds and covenants of this project would also address a number of conditions which would, we believe, meet or exceed the current deed restrictions of Pine Ridge community that's out there now. Community standards, in addition to the deeds and standards, would include maximum 50% impervious on the property. That matches the current Pine Ridge condition for impervious area on a 1 acre lot. Minimum frontage would be 100 feet on the frontage along the roadways. We have a 40-foot front setback from the right-of-ways of those. You have 25-foot setback on sides and rear, with the exception if you had a pool enclosure, it could go to 15 feet. That meets county code, but very seldom. Even looking around the Pine Ridge, very seldom, are the screen rooms within 15 feet. These are 1 acre lots. They're pretty good sized lots. Maximum 2-story homes, and there'd be no on-street parking. And once again, these are estate homes planned for this development. Next slide, please. With regard to the infrastructure, this would be a service with Citrus County Utilities drinking water for both domestic use and fire protection. And a note on that, the water use for 85 homes is estimated to be around 30,000 gallons per day. History of the golf course was showing that it was using on average around 200,000 gallons per day of water, and they do have a water use permit approved by the Water Management District to use 223,000 gallons per day of water. Any one maximum day, they could pump over 500,000 gallons per day from those wells. So significant reduction in the amount of water that would be drawn from the Florida aquifer. Use advanced septic tanks, 1 acre parcels in Citrus County would, by code and by state, allows the on-site septic tanks. This would be advanced septic tank systems as allowed by code. There'd be underground power service, there'd be street lighting at pedestrian level, we mentioned, and then fiber internet service. Most all the utilities is underground. With regard to vehicle and pedestrian facilities, all the streets would meet county code to be a minimum 20-foot wide paved neighborhood roadways. There would be curb and gutter. They would have sidewalks on both sides. And the continuous trails and roads and paths, and would be all interconnected. Next slide, please. Just talk a little bit about buffering and landscaping. Obviously, all the adjacent property owners are interested in understanding what this would appear like. Predominantly, most of it wouldn't change in appearance because most of this is linear golf course, and most of this site would maintain natural areas and the appearance of the golf course, the former golf course. There would be a minimum in the application, minimum 20-foot wide natural buffer to remain around the entire perimeter of all the property lines on this property. If you look at the master plan, very few places is even close to 20-foot wide. In fact, no place. The master plan shows a minimum of 25-foot as a minimum plan. Most of them are much, much larger in terms of natural landscaping buffers along the perimeter of the boundary. Mentioned the street gate pocket parks and that landscaping. In addition to stormwater management, the drainage retention areas would have landscaping, and that provides additional areas for both natural as well as some planted landscaping around all the water management areas. We mentioned the entrances would be heavily landscaped. And then along Elkham Boulevard, both sides of that road would be landscaped along the sides to just show a nice form of entry plus buffering from the estate homes from Elkham Boulevard itself. This would be a deed restricted community. It would also require the Florida Friendly Yards and Neighborhoods landscape pallets and plant likes to be used, so that's all consistent with lower water use and long-term survivability of all the plantings. One more slide, next please. This is a view from Elkham Boulevard, and it shows your typical natural buffer. It shows what would be a 20-foot wide vegetation buffer. You can see there's a lot of pine trees, a lot of oak trees, a lot of lower shrubs. That would remain natural. So what's adjacent to the private abutting property would remain for that. Most of the open space, call it the fairway areas, start beyond that. That is the area that would be proposed for development in those areas that we were proposing to put 1 acre lots. And just want to point out, and I think you knew that Mr. Clark Stillwell is here, as well as Mr. James Dix with the owner. And I'm going to turn this over to Clark Stillwell to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Clark Stillwell. My professional address is 320 South Highway 41, the Brandon Bank Building in Inverness, Florida. I am a licensed Florida attorney. I have practiced in land use law since 1978, and I've been asked to consult on this particular project. The review of the application and review of the public input indicates a lot of comment that the master plan as it exists should remain. And to understand this process, I'm going to give you a bit of history here, so bear with me. The Pine Ridge Citrus Springs project predates 1975. It predates the first land use zoning ordinance in Citrus County in 1976. In 1975, the Florida legislature adopted Florida Statute 38006, which is what we commonly call the Development of Regional Impact Statute. Within the framework of that statute, they provided for vesting of existing projects that might meet the criteria for development of regional impact. And if you review the plats in Citrus County, both in Sugar Mill, Punta Gorda developers, and both in Pine Ridge and Citrus Springs, Deltona, in an effort to avoid the mandates of the 38006, the DRI statute, they went out and platted these subdivisions pre-1975. And then they went to the state of Florida and got a vested rights letter, what we call a BLIVR, or some people get BLIMS, but the acronym means basically the project is exempt from DRI review. Now, what did that master plan? In Citrus Springs, units 1 through 27, Pine Ridge's unit 1 through 3 received a BLIVR. Citrus Hills has several vested rights letters. Beverly Hills units 1 through 5 have similar vested rights letters. Sugar Mill Woods has a vested rights letter exempting it from that process. Now, the master plan for Citrus Springs, Pine Ridge in 75 in the binding letter approved 38,140 residential lots. It approved 1,491 acres of recreation, 158 acres of schools, 164 acres of churches, 15 acres for a hospital site, and 1,003 acres of commercial use. Within that statute, it set forth a procedure where these DRI projects and binding letters, or blivers as we call them, could be modified. The modification process had specific standards, and basically they said things like, if you increase the residential density more than 5% or 50 units, then that triggered a new application, a new DRI, or you had to become a DRI. In Citrus County in 1975, the standard for a DRI project was 600 residential units. That increased over the years to 800 to 1,000, then to 1,200. Since this project has been approved, you have several modifications to it. The school sites have been deleted. The recreational and park areas have been deleted, several of them. In the area of Mustang Boulevard and County Road 491, which was designated for residential sites along 491, you have 5 office complexes built. You had, for the Black Diamond Phase 5, that part of Pine Ridge was incorporated into that project, and the density of 89 acres and 66 units went out of this project into Black Diamond. You have the YMCA site, and you have the elementary school site on County Road 486. So the project has not been still. It has grown and changed with the community as the community has changed. In fact, my office in, I want to say, sometime in the 90s, at my age, my memory's not that good, but sometime in the 90s, we put the par 3 course in on this particular site. And guess what? The neighbors objected. And why did they object? They didn't want the golf carts running up and down behind their houses. They didn't want the noise. They didn't want the traffic, etc. In 2014, the Florida legislature came along and said, look, all of these arbitrary standards to change a DRI or a vested project are outdated, and they repealed them. And they adopted the test, whether it be a DRI or a vested project like this one, does it meet your local plan, and the test of consistency. And if it met the test of consistency under your local plan, then it was appropriate that it be modified after appropriate public hearings, such as this one. So why did they do this? Well, in Florida, these projects are long-term. There used to be a DRI, had to be done in 10 years. And then they said it had to be done in 20 years. And now they can take and go as much as 50 years. And in Florida, as you well know, it's a boom or bust situation. And so these projects would contract and then grow and contract and grow. And the timelines became arbitrary. The market conditions, the legislature felt were the most appropriate guiding item for these projects over time. And so then when that happened, your local codes were amended to allow this process to proceed as a PUD and meet the test of a PUD under the code. Now, under the mapping policies that were in the 90s, and then in 2012 when we did the major rewrite, the G-Flume on Pine Ridge was RMU, which is a mixed-use residential development, and that's reflective of all the varied uses that I listed: commercial, recreation, schools, office, etc. The Atlas maps were reflective of the actual uses on the property. So if it's a single-family lot, you got PUD single family. If it was a golf course, you've got PUD golf course. Didn't get PUD open space. You got PUD golf course, a commercial enterprise. Now, both the LDC and your plan allow for amendments, and this is an Atlas amendment. It's not a plan amendment, okay? Your test of a major amendment under your local code is whether there's an increase in residential densities of 5%. That would be 173 units, not applicable here. one of the tests is there a decrease in open space? 5%. Again, this piece is designated as a golf course, not open space, so the decrease test of 5%, a major modification, is really not applicable. The reason we're here is simply because the PUD says golf course, and they want to do residential use. It's not a decrease in open space as defined by the code. The question becomes, is it consistent with your comprehensive land use plan? Is it consistent with your code? Now, the staff report indicates this particular project is in the Central Ridge area where we want residential growth to occur. Staff report is it's proximate to the planned service area and served by central utilities. And the staff report indicates that the 85 single-family residential units are consistent with what abuts it. There's always a test of compatibility. Compatibility as defined by the statute is the ability of two uses, long-term, not short-term, long-term, to coexist without causing harm to the other. Now, value is not considered in that definition here, but we're going to talk about value. So this application is compatible to use. It's compatible as to the type. It's not a situation of introducing apartments into a predominantly residential area, which you've seen before. It's compatible as to lot size, and it's compatible as to the type of development being set forth. Both the property, one of the things that the staff report does indicate, just fundamentally, is there's no plan inconsistency, and the LDC conditions set forth in section 4305 are met. What the staff report doesn't talk about and is pertinent is we have a private property rights element in the plan that was adopted by the Florida legislature in the year 2021. And it basically provides that a right or protects the right to use your private property for a meaningful purpose. This board, the Board of County Commissioners, amended its comprehensive land use plan in 2021, consistent with the state legislature, and adopted that policy. The land use plan, the PUD, the master plan, based on that private property rights element, doesn't indenture, and that's my term, indenture, a piece of property to an existing long-term use if it's not viable. Fact of the matter is, based on the National Golf Foundation records, you can Google it, okay, in the first 6 months of this year, 50 golf courses have closed in the United States. There's 16,000 golf courses in the United States of America. There's 12 in Citrus County, 4 of which are closed. That's Seville, the Dunes, Rainbow Springs, El Diablo, and this particular golf course. The statistics indicate that if you're a daily fee public course and your fee is less than $40 per round, which that was the case in this particular golf course, 90% of those courses are closing. 2019, there were 219 golf course closures for economic reasons. In 2022, there were 130 golf course closes for economic reasons. And this year, they project 100. The National Golf Foundation indicates most of the changes occur essentially going to residential or commercial type uses. Now, in my practice, I've had the ability or the experience having served on 2 golf course communities board of directors. I can tell you from personal knowledge, the average cost of a golf hole to maintain it in the state of Florida, until I got out of that business, was $20,500 per hole. Now you divide that number by $40 a round and you figure out how many golfers you need to survive. Places like Black Diamond and Citrus Hills, the average expenditure for a golf hole is close to $40,000. So unless a project is subsidized by a developer, which that's what they did in the 70s, that's what they did in the 80s, the economic viability of this type of golf course cannot be met. Hence, it was closed. I represented the two prior owners before Mr. Dix. They struggled. They had issues. They were looking for what they could do to change or make the project better. You have 3,450 lots at Pine Ridge. If you had just 500 of those people that were members of this golf course, we wouldn't be here. Fact of the matter is, there aren't 500 matters. Mr. Dix is going to speak. He'll tell you when he bought the golf course, it had 10 members. So economically, it can't survive. It is a commercial use. Commercial uses thrive or they fail. And when they fail, then it's incumbent upon the community to find a reasoned alternative. Again, you cannot indenture a piece of property. You cannot. We're not changing this to open space. If you turn this down, it's a golf course. It'll be an inoperable golf course. Now the t-shirts say, and I respect the comments, I do, save the golf course. No, it says save the golf course.
Hey, excuse me, we're gonna keep order. He has the podium, so please continue.
Well, the golf course, when it closed, save golf course. Right.
Mr. Stillwell, could we
Thank you.
please?
So when that golf course closed, that's when the value impacted the abutters. You turn this down, it's going to be closed. The value is still going to be reflective of a closed golf course. The people that are going to go to sell their house, they're going to have to disclose what's behind them when they answer the question. Well, it's a closed golf course. What's going to happen? We don't know. And that we don't know in the future is as bad as having a closed golf course. And just look to Rainbow Springs, where they've had a closed golf course for a long time. El Diablo, same thing. Values there have decreased, even though it's still a, quote, golf course. Seville and the dunes, at least they planted pines, and it's a forest. So what we would request of you is that you pass this on, recognizing that it's compatible with your plan, it meets all the objective criteria of your land development code, and you recognize the policies that are set forth in your comprehensive land use plan under the private property rights element. To do nothing is just going to continue an unacceptable situation, really, from the property owner's standpoint or from the homeowner's standpoint. Now, the plan exceeds open space by 25%. Your plan says you got to have 25% open space. This plan is 50%. The code says no buffers, residential to residential. Yet you see the buffer. The developer's gone out of his way to try to maintain the quality of this project. It is consistent with the neighborhood and is low intensity. So, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. We're gonna have that after you conclude your presentation.
Mr. Dix will file. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Good morning. So I will definitely try to use my outside voice. Can you hear me in the background? Outstanding. My name's James Dix. I am the developer, DIX Developments, 103 Commerce Street, Lake Mary, Florida. And I appreciate your time this morning. I appreciate everybody's time here. I heard all the, groaning and stuff when Clark started talking. I did the same thing. A lot of that stuff's above my head, so I'm just going to talk briefly just about myself and my background, and reserve any other time that we may have for rebuttal after that. Quite frankly, I look forward to hearing all the input because I value that input. But let me start off. First of all, I'm a 7th generation Floridian. Family's been farming in Florida for 80 years. We've been developing land for, probably 60 of that. I started here in Crystal River, coming in 1974. My father bought Port Paradise about the time my mother and father got divorced, and I started coming here every summer. And I've been through multiple cycles through here. So it's not like I just rolled into town yesterday and said, hey, here's what we're going to do. My father still had a lot of land holdings, and unfortunately, just an unfortunate accident during Hurricane Irma, he passed away. And I took a little hiatus from Citrus County for a little while, and I ended up back here. I still have family here. I'm here all the time, quite frankly. On my spare time, I'm mowing out there at the golf course because I enjoy that. And I've met many residents here on the mower. They may not have known who I was at the time, but you'll see me out there. I'll be out there this afternoon. I was out there this morning. When I first came in, and let me just say, I've read all the comments, okay? I do projects like this, higher end homes. This isn't going to be multifamily, affordable housing. It's going to be what you saw. They're going to be higher end homes, quite frankly. We're not going to be having, light pollution. We'll be using low spill lighting so that people can actually go outside and walk between their neighbors, have a conversation, go trick or treating, use a sidewalk, not have to worry about cars flying down LCAM and all those other things right there. They're going to be able to live in this community, and it's going to be gated, and that will create a different atmosphere. And it may not be for everybody, but I will tell you that it is for some people. I have a list right now of people that want to move in there, people that currently live in Pine Ridge, and people that want to buy a lot in Pine Ridge. And will it affect your values? Again, the golf course is closed. We all have a different opinion. The values have probably already been absorbed as far as what's going to happen. And when the 85 houses are sold and you've got $500,000, $600,000 houses in there or more, the values are going to go up. And I speak from experience because I live on a golf course that did go bankrupt, that did go out of business for 3 or 4 years, and then was absorbed by another developer who came in and cleared out the old clubhouse, built a new smaller clubhouse, put a whole bunch of new lots in, supplemented his expense for that golf course, put $7 million in the golf course, and now it's viable. And the course next to me where my cousin lives is currently closed and will never have a golf course. And as soon as the moratorium's up, there's going to be houses on it. So somebody has to pay to go in there and develop the lot, to maintain it, to keep it updated. I mean, I'll tell you right now, you probably have no idea. It costs $16,000 minimum a month to mow it. Okay? That's with no golf course. That's with no nothing, no income, no anything coming on it. When I bought the golf course, it was losing $30,000 a month, and it had no equipment, no employees hardly. It had no superintendent. No way was it ever going to survive. I would have left it open if you could see the golf ball on the actual green. And I looked into it. It's going to be $2.5 million to bring it back to actually play golf on it. And then, okay, great. Okay, let's do some numbers there. Is that viable? Well, again, 10 members when I actually took it over. And I was there the day I took it over, and people came to play around, and they were paying $12 a round. How long does it take to recoup your $2.5 million investment plus, let's just say, another $40,000, $50,000 a month at least to keep it operating? I could, I didn't do college, so it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out no way were you ever going to get your money back as a golf course. There wasn't enough support. A lot of people want to support it, but when it comes time to playing, they don't. And I heard Black Diamond mentioned. I mean, they just raised their initiation fee to $50,000, right? And I don't even know how much it costs to play around there. It's above my pay grade. But I mean, there's no way, right, you're going to be able to play golf there unless 500 people want to step up, unless they want to pay initiation fees, unless they want to pay $50 a round or $40 a round or whatever those numbers are. I can't do it. I couldn't figure it out. However, I do know that Pine Ridge is a great place to live. It's a great community. And I think that you're going to have 1 acre lots, no different than any other lot in there. You have 85 lots, of which 25 of those lots are probably, they're not touching anything. They're not touching an existing lot or anything like that. Of the 60 left, about 20% of them have just a vacant, overgrown lot that's never ever been cleared or mowed or anything. So there is a small amount of lots in there that will be affected, that'll have, big setbacks. And even one is a problem. I understand that. But I'm looking to see how we can actually make something into something, right? Take the golf course that's not doing anything, that's only going to continue to get overgrown and never be anything. That will affect your property values. And as far as property values go, my house, I suffered the same thing. When the course closed, my value of my house went down significantly. Over the next 4 years, it didn't do anything because nothing was done. But when they built the new houses there and they decided they were going to open a golf course and raise the initiation fee to $25,000, okay, my value started to come back. And the same thing's going to happen to the golf course next to me, that when they start building houses, their values are going to start to skyrocket. I mean, and that's just experience. I understand that. So I just wanted to introduce myself for just a quick minute to everybody here. I'm passionate about Citrus County. I'm passionate about my projects. All of our projects are thought out. We don't just go do 10 acres, throw a few houses on there and walk away. I mean, we're paying impact fees. We're putting roads in, utilities. We're making things better, and we're forward thinking what we do. So I want to be here a long time. I want to be a great neighbor. I'd like to reserve some of my time for rebuttal. I'm not going to take any more time because I don't want to sit here any longer than anybody else here. So I would like to hear, the rest of the opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude the applicants? Okay. Are there any questions from staff?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I do. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. A couple things in the public input that were coming up, and if you could address those, please. And also, I think you're asking for an additional condition that you want a 5-year limit for expiration. Is that correct?
Yes, not the 3 to 5.
Mr. Pigeon, would you mind going to the
podium,
microphone?
unfortunately.
Once again, Chuck Pigeon, yes, to answer staff, yes, the code says minimum 3 years to get all lots and things platted. We requested 5 years, just because we understand things move a little bit slower now with so much going on in the county, so we want to give everyone time to do what they need to do. Do we need to adjust other staff conditions?
One more question is just, I can go over those if you'd like to, but one more question came up a lot in public input as that this is affordable housing. I've not had anything in the application. Can you address that?
Yes, this is not affordable housing.
It's market rate, correct?
This is market rate estate homes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Commissioner Barnes?
Yeah, Mr. Pigeon, your testimony is that the septic system is going to be an advanced. Your
Yes, sir.
colleague, Mr. Stillwell, says it's going to be central water and sewer. Can you explain why you have a differential on how you're going to get rid of the waste?
It's advanced septic tank systems with on-site septic tank and drain field systems, which is set allowed by code and by the state of Florida. And our application always addressed that it would be on-site septic tank systems.
And Mr. Stillwell said it was going to be essential water, essential sewer. So his testimony is incorrect? Because there's a difference between a septic advanced system and a central sewer system.
Yes, sir. I understand that.
I would just like to get clarification on that.
Specifically in the Pine Ridge area and the perimeters, there is central water and central. Thank you. Clark Stillwell, specifically talking about overall within the Pine Ridge perimeters, okay, there is central water and central sewer. To the interior of this piece where the golf course is, central water, but not central sewer. So Mr. Pigeon's statements are correct. I'm sorry if I misstated that or misinterpreted. I will say this, that the advanced treatment system that will be put in removes 97% of what we would call objectionable items versus a standard system which does 92%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Commissioner Bramlett?
I have a question for Mr. Dix.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dix, when you purchased this property, was this property for sale in the open market?
Yes, yes, it was. It was listed as an auction through CoStar's 10X.
So this property was made available to the public?
It was.
Do you know how long this property was for sale for before you purchased it?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Yes, Commissioner. Yes, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bass.
For Mr. Pigeon, you indicated that the existing buffer is going to remain. Just curious, how dense is that buffer right now? Is it reasonably dense or is it kind of sparse?
Reasonably dense in some places. For example, here it's, I don't know if you call that dense or spar as a photo, but in some most places it's reasonably dense.
Is it easily? Can you easily look through it? Maybe that would be the easiest way to say it. If I was to stand here and look through, to try to look through the other side, would I be able to see through, or is it has enough forestry that you won't be able to see through?
I think it depends on the individual lot. There's a lot of properties out there that have a backyard with a lot of vegetation.
Yep.
So I don't know that they could see very well.
Okay.
But others cleared right up to their property line, and I believe, yes, they could see through, and they could see,
Okay.
if a golf cart drove by, yes, they could see a golf cart. They could
Okay.
see a tractor. They could see,
Okay.
trees coming down.
You had mentioned that you were going to put in low-level street lighting. Are you talking, what, maybe a 12-foot pole height, or are you talking bollards that are only 4-foot high?
Actually, both.
Okay.
But yeah, typical street lights, 30, 35 foot high.
Right.
These would be lower level, like you mentioned, 12, 15 foot max.
Okay. Also, on a golf course, when they're active, it takes numerous processes to keep the golf course green and everything else. So there's a lot of fertilizers, pesticides, et cetera, that have been used on a golf course. Have you done any soil testing to find out if there's any residual impact from these different chemicals that were used during the life of the golf course?
To my knowledge, there's been no soil testing for any kind of priority chemicals or priority pollutants.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Commissioner Facemeyer?
I have a number of questions, and I'm not sure who the appropriate one is to answer, but I'll ask them, and whoever can best respond can do so. What are the number of lots in Pine Ridge existing and the number of existing homes in the current Pine Ridge? Approximately.
Just the Pine Ridge or the vested rights property that originally was owned by Deltona? So we're talking about just,
Can you differentiate
just
between
the
the two?
property platted as Pine Ridge with the name Pine Ridge. There are 4,832 lots.
4,000?
4,000.
4,800?
832.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many of those have houses on them.
You have a guess, percentage?
No, sir.
60, 70, 20?
3,400.
I do not know.
Are they 1 acre lots, the existing Pine Ridge homes?
Predominantly, yes. There are some larger lots, up to 5 acres.
Okay.
Predominantly, though, majority is
1 acre is probably the minimum, but there are some larger.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The street entrance access that you spoke of, they would be gated also, similar to the Terra Vista backdoor entrances, if you will. They're gated but not manned. They're kind of just a gate, not a fancy entrance like depicted here.
There would be only 2 entrances with gates. Those would be the ones off of Elcam. The other streets, one street has 3 lots. The other street has 4 lots.
Right.
Those would not be gated.
Not gated.
No, sir.
Okay. The 20-foot natural buffer we discussed, who would be responsible for maintaining that? Would that be common area, Pine Ridge Reserve, but not the property owners?
That's
what I-
correct. The understanding is that it would be the homeowners association for Pine Ridge Reserve responsible for everything outside of the 1 acre lots.
And this last question, I'm going to direct to Mr. Stillwell, because he spoke of the vested right letters. Can you clarify the process for change? You indicated that it has evolved over the years. Can you talk about where we were and where we are now as far as future land use in this area? Or in areas where the vested rights letters have been issued?
Well, the vested rights letter is units 1 through 27 in Citrus Springs and units 1 through 3 in Pine Ridge. So if I give you an example, I think you'll understand the process pre the legislature's repeal of the statute.
Right.
There was an application form, much like the county has an application form, and you would file it with the state of Florida Department of Community Affairs. And then you file your supporting materials with the state of Florida Department of Community Affairs. You would copy Citrus County with that application. Citrus County would comment to the Department of Community Affairs on the scope on the application. The application would be reviewed against those statutory mandates found in 38006, i.e., does it increase the residential density by 5%? Does it decrease the open space? Does it increase the amount of commercial square footage? Does it increase the amount of office, a certain percentage? There were percentages and generally an increase in commercial square footage on a commercial DRI of 15% or X number of parking spaces. It depended on the nature of the DRI or the vested rights letter. So you would go through that process and the Department of Community Affairs would sign off on it and in fact render a written decision to you that your modification was or was not accepted.
That was a previous process.
Well, then that was step one. Once you got DCA clearance, you came back to Citrus County and filed an amendment based on that change. All right, that was the previous process. That process has been eliminated. You file nothing with the state of Florida now, and you go to your local planning commission, this group, and then the Board of County Commissioners, and the test is it consistent with your comprehensive land use plan? Is it consistent with the objective criteria for your land development code?
So
The state,
in essence, we are being asked to decide on a modification to a plan that was adopted
1975,
prior to 1975.
that has been modified
Right, a number of times.
a number of times.
Okay, thank you.
The state's role has completely been eliminated in this process. Thank you.
Thank you.
We all set?
I'm good.
I only have one question. Can anyone tell me how long the golf course has been closed? Members of the audience, I also want to ask you, we're doing a quasi-judicial procedure here today, and I think we modeled earlier today during the previous applications, what the proper procedure is. And when you yell stuff out from the audience, it's difficult for us to hear, and we're asking for testimony. So if you would refrain, and we'll allow the applicant to answer.
Yes, ma'am. Quite frankly, that was a pretty good answer, so I'd
Okay,
say
good.
about a year.
Very good. Thank you.
I did have one question.
Okay.
How many times has this golf course been attempted? Previous owners? Twice, or the last time it closed down was 3?
Mr. Dix, or whoever.
Or Mr. Stillwell would be fine too.
Well, I don't know. The word attempted is problematic. I can tell you, and I'm going to go back, Mr. Dix bought it, okay? There was an owner, an out-of-state owner, okay? He held it for maybe 2 years, 2.5 years. There was a gentleman who lived in Black Diamond who bought it. okay? Before that, it was owned by Beverly Hills Development Corporation. At one time, they owned Twisted Oaks and this golf course. And then they sold that golf course off. Beverly Hills Development, Deltona was the original owner, but after Deltona, there may have been another operator in between Beverly Hills Development Corporation and Deltona. I'm not sure who that was, but they sold it off. The change in ownership is frankly indicative of the difficulty in operating this particular facility.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board? Okay. Seeing none, now we'll have the staff presentation.
All right. So they are asking to change approximately 221.9 acres on the Pine Ridge Master Plan. And I'm going to say a few things a little differently than normal, just because a little more explanation. I've probably talked to half the people in this room and the others I've emailed with, but trying to clear up a few things. So what's being proposed here is to amend the master plan for Pine Ridge. They are not proposing a zoning change. The comprehensive plan map designation is not changing. So there's been a lot of confusion about the residential mixed use, or RMU. It's mentioned very prominently in the applicant's documentation, and it has caused some confusion. Residential mixed use does not actually imply residential or mixed use, frankly. It's a lovely name, but what it means is that there's a master plan in place. So all of Pine Ridge already has an RMU designation. That's not proposed to change here, whether this application is approved or denied. This does not suddenly open it up to mixed use. What it means is, hey, there's a master plan in place. You need to check that out. Another misconception, and you'll see it a lot in the public input as well, is that this is a precursor, well, I don't know, precursor. This is a way to get multifamily here. I can tell you that multifamily is not a current allowed use in Pine Ridge, period. It's not on the master plan. They did not contemplate it. Citrus Springs, yes, and Mr. Still was correct that in the history they were a combined application with the state long ago. However, they are separate units, separate entities as far as zoning. And Pine Ridge does not have a multifamily component. They cannot say, I know I got this approved, but I want multifamily. If they want multifamily, they have to come back before you, come back before the board, and it would require an amendment to the entire Pine Ridge master plan. It wouldn't just be this little area. Everyone that has property within the Pine Ridge master plan, Pine Ridge period, plus 500 feet outside of Pine Ridge would get notice about that. That would be a big deal. That would be a lot different than this particular application. Not that this isn't a big deal, but this cannot suddenly change to multifamily. That is quite a different process. All right, now just trying to solve a few things I'm getting in public input. So this is the area of the application. This is the golf course area. I'm a little surprised to hear it's only been about a year. It does look quite overgrown, but you can see that it abuts all single-family residential, which again is the only allowed use here, but there are a few uses in the area outside of that. So this is the master plan. I just zoomed in on this particular area. You can see those areas labeled golf course. You can see single-family. There are some other uses on there. You can see down the lower left-hand corner, there's a park site. So there are areas that are designated for a park site. This master plan has been in place since mid-70s, as Mr. Stillwell did state correctly, and there have been amendments over the years. But in this particular case, this golf course was there since that time, as far as I'm aware. All right, this is part of the golf course. This is why I actually thought it was closed a little longer than that. This was clearly an old restroom building and pretty overgrown. The vine you can't really see, but it's kind of caving in that wall. This is one of the entrances, and the reason this picture is here is to show the proximity to the houses. Mr. Bass's question was well taken. There is not a requirement for residential to residential for buffers. If you build a residential subdivision and you build one next door, there's not a buffer requirement between the two because those are like uses. The applicant is proposing to keep the 20-foot natural buffer. At times, that's like all golf courses. Sometimes you can see the houses very clearly, sometimes you can't. So in this particular instance, I'll say this is probably representative of what I could observe with the 20-foot buffer. It's not an opaque buffer. You're going to see through it to see the other houses if this application is approved. And this is the master plan proposed. So they are proposing up to 85 houses. Now, one thing they are trying to do is keep the existing standards of Pine Ridge. So they are 1 acre lots. That's a 1 acre minimum. They are also proposing 50% impervious surface. That's also already in Pine Ridge. And the setbacks proposed are also similar to single family in Pine Ridge of 40 feet front and 25 sides and rear, with a possible reduction to 15 for screen enclosures. That's nothing new. That is the current standards of Pine Ridge. Now, I heard some comments there, zooms in a little bit. I heard some comments about central water and central sewer. That's partially my fault. We did say central sewer in the staff report. It's not. It doesn't say that in the application. It is the advanced septic tank systems. Central sewer is not available throughout Pine Ridge. It's also not available in many parts of Citrus Springs. So this would be condition number 6. If this is recommended for approval, says served by central water and central sewer. That should be changed to central water and advanced septic tank systems. Condition number 3 that talks about setbacks. The ISR says 50% ISR per lot, again, like Pine Ridge. In the staff report, it also says 20% maximum project wide. That's incorrect. We're not going to do a project wide impervious surface, so we would suggest you strike through that particular text. You heard the applicant speak on they want an extension to 5 years instead of 3 years for the project. That's not unusual. They're probably going to have to phase this because you can see some very clear areas on the other side of LCAM. I doubt that will all be developed separately, together. I think that's all I have to say. Single family to single family is compatible. However, you will no doubt hear testimony that this has been in golf course use on the master plan for some time.
Thank you, Joanna. Does the applicant have any questions for staff? Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I have one.
Commissioner Scragg,
Joanne, on number 3.
can you speak into your microphone, please?
Outside voice.
Outside. Here we go.
I said mom voice. It works so much better.
Okay.
Mom voice.
Or my old teacher's voice. On the 1 acre lots, it has the minimum acreage, 43,560. But then when you go down to the lot width, you're only doing 100, when most of the homes that are going to be backed up to this are definitely more, and that would be more compatible if it was maybe 150 feet. And the front, maybe instead of 40 feet, could be 50 feet. And the sides could be, say, 30 or 35 feet, and the rear could be 50 or 40 feet. That would be much more compatible than the numbers you have here.
Okay, so first of all, not my numbers. It's not my application, but
Sorry,
understand with the I'm not taking ownership of it. However, the applicant's trying to be consistent in my understanding with what Pine Ridge already has in place. So these numbers are the existing Pine Ridge numbers. Can this board suggest different? Absolutely.
Okay.
But that the residential lots out there are 100-foot width. That's the minimum for new. Now, you're not going to create new lots in Pine Ridge most places. Most of it's platted out, but 1 acre with 100-foot and these setbacks of 40 and 25 are the existing ones. But this board can absolutely put some in if you want to.
Thank you.
Commissioner Facemeyer.
Joanna, if this plan is adopted as proposed, there would be a significant part of the existing golf course that would remain open for trails and passive park type of activities. Once this is built out and the developer says, geez, I'd like to build houses on the 5th hole, what's that process?
What you're going through right now. They would have to amend that portion of the PUD to allow additional homes.
So the amendment would be to.
The amendment would be to change.
Whatever we adopt today.
Right. What you're considering recommending for adoption,
Yes.
is this plan in front of you for up to 85 homes. If down the line they say, well, 85 is great, but we're really selling like hotcakes, we want 95 or whatever, 100, they're going to have to come back before the board and change this master plan. There are some minor modification criteria up to 5%, but there's a lot of caveats in that that are staff level reviews, such as can they move a drainage retention area a little bit? But it's not going to let them put a house in the middle of that open space. That's going to have to come back for a new public hearing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one.
Yeah.
Clark gave a tremendous amount of testimony, based on his many years of experience.
That's a dig there, but okay.
We're lucky that you also have many years of experience. Do you concur with his testimony provided or have any differences?
Mr. Stilwell and I don't always agree on things, but his general history was correct in that Citrus Springs and Pine Ridge do predate, frankly, the zoning offices of Citrus County. They predate Land Development Code and comp plans here. And they were a combined project through the state. So all of those considerations he did talk about are correct. He's correct that the state's out of this review now. Yes.
What about the 5%, like the test for golf course versus open space? If it's 5% more, then it's not applicable, that testimony?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. However, one of the big concerns when the applicant first met with us to discuss this project was open space and removing this much open space in Pine Ridge. So you'll see in their application, they've given a detailed analysis of how many acres this removes and how much is left in the overall area. They're meeting criteria. So 5 versus 10, I have nothing on that to support that.
Thank you. Anyone else? It looks like it. Thank you, Joanna. Okay. At this time, we're going to recess for 10 minutes, and we'll resume at 11:32.
Yes. Yeah.
Everyone, if you could please take your seats.
Okay, I've heard it.
We would like to resume public comment. We have someone at the podium. If everyone could take their seats, please.
My husband's can grab me. Well, I was gonna test it and see.
Everyone, if you could quiet down and take your seats, please. Ma'am?
Yes, test. Everybody can hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name's Donna Weidman. I'm at 5841 North Rosewood Drive. In case any of you don't know, I am blind. I'm standing in front of you to, first off, the only thing I'm going to say that is redundant to the other people, but not, is Pine Ridge is a sanctuary that you guys all get to see. But I get to hear it, and that's all I get to do. And if you destroy that, it will destroy the things that I enjoy going out to listen to at night and during the day, but more so at night, because I encourage any of you when go outside at night, close your eyes and just listen, okay? I want to do a little math lesson in the forthrightness of Mr. Dix, okay? I used to be in business. Let's talk numbers. He's talking 85 homes, $500,000 to $600,000. Let's make 500 for the basic number because it's easy to work with. Let's say he sells all 85 of those homes, $500,000. It costs $300,000 to build them. That's a 40% profit on his margin. I don't know if that's true in real estate or not because I'm not a builder. Let's take that $200,000 times it by 85, $190,000. Now, let's look at, Sorry. 1.9 million. Okay, pardon. 1.9. Okay, sorry. So let's take that 1.9 million. He's already spent $1 million plus maintaining the property, okay? I don't even have any clue how much it costs for attorneys. I'm sure he's spending several $100,000 on attorneys because several $100,000 on attorneys and more, okay? So, because I know what it costs for a real estate attorney, done it. So let's talk that. How much does it cost to come in front of the board? How much does it cost to hire engineers? How much does it cost to do all this stuff? None of these people are doing it for free. How much is it going to cost him to build the infrastructure? Now your bills are adding up. I've never known a business person to get into business not to make money. Do you think $1.9 million in profit based on a $500,000 home at 40% profit on just the house at $200,000, $1.9 million, do you think that is enough
to make him enough profit to really be in this? Do you think this is not the beginning of another step? I mean, business people want to make. I was in the food industry. Business, you're lucky if you make 20%, and you want to make 30%, but it's not that simple. So we know that the cost to him being in here is significant. So if he decides that he wants only 85, he's got to build things, he's got to revamp things, $16,000 a month to mow the lawn as it was, the roads, the power, all that stuff. So add it up and see if it works.
Thank you
for
very
listening.
much. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I'm Mark Hertel, 617 Dove Creek Circle, Grapevine, Texas. I'm here only for this meeting to Florida. I purchased my lot 52, now known as 5452 Elkham Boulevard in 1971. So I put a contract down. I've owned the lot effectively for 50 years. I've been paying taxes on it for 40 years. I'm representative of many people who don't get a vote in Citrus County but pay taxes to it. My lot is on Elkham Boulevard, right in the curve. It's 184 feet wide. Almost every lot on that curve of Elkham Boulevard is 184 feet wide, as compared to the 100-foot minimum that has been proposed. So it's going to be a little dense. Looking at the map, when I bought the lot from the plat that was still in effect, it was I was 100 steps from the first tee. Now, according to that map, I'm in spitting distance of a new lot to be built behind me. There are, by my count, 200 lots roughly that have frontage on the golf course. There's 156 voting households with footage on the golf course. According to this map, there's over 80 households, mostly occupied, that will be closed off from what is today a golf course. I haven't heard anything about the financing that is going to be done, as somebody who just spoke, but I know the interest rates are getting high, and I don't know if a developer is really going to be able to get this done. But once you change this, it could be. There are, just 2 days ago, another similar proposal was voted down in Hillsborough County. So you can do it. But I ask you, turn this down. We don't need it. We have enough housing right now, and you're going to do damage to a whole bunch of people, many of whom are here and have talked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Alan Allwood, and I emigrated to this country in 1964. So, and I built a house in Pine Ridge 31 years ago. And I just want people to realize that I am hoping that my heirs, my son and daughter, are going to own my house, because I am 87. So obviously I won't be around much longer. Well, I hope I will, but you never know. But I just want people to realize that this development is very, very out of place in this community, and I just hope that it gets turned down, because it absolutely needs to be for the people who have already invested in this area, and just so that you don't have another community in the middle of a community, which to me is really, really not a good thing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Ulrich. I live at 6,000 Larkspur Way in Pine Ridge, and I really appreciate this opportunity to give my perspective. I request that you uphold the original Pine Ridge master plan and protect the current golf course property from development. I agree with and stand behind what all the points that all the other speakers have presented. But I also give a slightly different perspective. I'm a nurse practitioner. I've been in healthcare for over 40 years, and my husband was a 35-year paramedic. We both came out of Baltimore. We are both extremely concerned about the infrastructure impact of this proposed housing plan, as well as all the other plans that have already been approved. We need to recognize the impact of growth on our current EMS system and their response time, as well as the current fire services. In addition, we need to look at the impact on our local hospitals, our local emergency room services, especially because our whole country, much less our state and our own county, are dealing with a huge healthcare staffing shortage. Now, my 40-year career was 35 years as a bedside nurse at a major hospital. The last 5 years, I worked for a medical device company, and I traveled from Pennsylvania down to Georgia, and I was in over 100 hospitals. I have seen firsthand the impact of this staffing shortage and what it's done to healthcare in our country and patient care, and the people that have died waiting. So the impact to our healthcare system and our EMS services from this continued growth needs to be considered. Has anybody in this county really done their due diligence and assessed the long-term impact of not only this proposed community, but all the communities and building that has already been approved but hasn't even been started yet, and the people that are going to be coming to this area? So I ask, please look at the healthcare, look at the infrastructure, the roads, the school systems, the teachers. They're in a shortage also for care. So please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott Gordon. I live at 4601 North Capistrano Loop in Pine Ridge. My wife and I moved here about 5 years ago from Miami, so we're very familiar with large areas, lots of crime, lots of crowds, lots of crowded communities. So we were really happy to move to Pine Ridge. I had a lot of notes here that, let me back up. I agree with everything that all the other speakers have already said, because a lot of the things I had in my notes here. So a couple of things I wanted to hit on that might be a little different. The land is now owned by a real estate developer who wants to build 85 homes. We all know that. This road requires significant and unnecessary land clearing, excavation, and installing new infrastructure, roads, water, electric, storm drains, retention ponds, fiber optic cable that already exist within the boundaries of Pine Ridge right now. As other speakers have said, there's plenty, around 1,500 existing lots that could be built on. There's no upside, no benefit, no positive aspects for the property owners of Pine Ridge for this deal to go through. The only entity that has an upside in this scenario is the real estate developer. The plan to build a gated community of 85 homes within the core of Pine Ridge is unfair to the current 10,000 residents that contributed an estimated $48 million in tax revenue annually to Citrus County. As a point of reference, a back-of-the-envelope estimate for property tax revenue generated from 85 homes at $5,000 a year each is $425,000 of tax revenue. Is it fair for 10,000 residents that pay $48 million in property tax to take backseat to a self-serving real estate developer whose 85 homes will generate $425,000, which is approximately 9,000ths of 1%, 9,000ths of 1% of the tax revenue that's already generated by the people who live in Pine Ridge? I just ask you, please put yourself in our shoes. If this was your home, your family, and this development, would you want this deal to go through? The developer is taking advantage of what Pine Ridge has created over the past 5 decades and is using it as leverage to build a gated sub-community within the Pine Ridge Estates. And several people have said that already. I'll just leave it at this. It doesn't fit. Putting a gated community within the confines of an existing community is like putting an outhouse inside an elevator. It just doesn't fit. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Gordon. That was my husband. I live at 4601 North Capistrano Loop. Thank you for letting me speak. This has all been said, but I'm going to speak for every young person that is on my street. There's 4 of them, little kids. They have jobs. They both work. They're not here because they couldn't be here at 9 o'clock and sit here all day and fight for this. Some of them probably don't even know. 2 of them built houses. One has taken an older house that needed work, that an older person went to a nursing home because they had been there so long and have rebuilt it. They have a right to be spoken for too. They're not here, but so I speak for them. Just vote no. Thank you.
Good day. My name is KJ Makaitis, and I live at 4282 West Roundup Court. My wife and I enjoy Pine Ridge. We love it. And when we bought, we thought we're going to be protected by the Pine Ridge Master Plan, which is designed to ensure that all the people that bought here would be totally protected against any kind of development that is destructive to the community. And as has been mentioned, you know that as the board is guided by the Land Development Code that was mentioned, section 1300, subparagraph C, actually requires this board, and I'll quote exactly, in protecting landowners from adverse impacts of adjoining developments. Now, there's been a lot of evidence presented that there's adverse impacts. And I think that is a key point and a guiding point and really a guiding principle for this committee. And so I would like to emphasize that. Also, it's questionable how this property was acquired. As we mentioned, as Wes mentioned, that there are parties here who are willing to pay twice as much as Mr. Dix in order to continue maintaining a golf course. But they were shut out of the process. This is an injustice. This taints your whole decision if you make such a decision to approve this proposal. And I think this proposal should at the least be delayed so that it can be totally resolved if there is in fact buyers, and if there are still buyers who are willing to buy this course for more money than what Mr. Dix paid for. And I think lastly, one of the things that was mentioned a couple of times, but really wasn't emphasized, was the fact that this golf course has used chemicals, all types of chemicals. They've had maintenance equipment. They have gasoline, stored oil, every kind of lubricant, and all kinds of corrosive maintenance items. What needs to happen here is that, for golfers is not a problem. But for children and pets playing and rolling in the grass, that could present a serious problem. Down the road, you seriously don't want to have some kind of cancers, leukemia, or something start to develop because you approved something that wasn't vetted. What needs to happen is that the Department of Environmental Protection should test this property to make sure that isn't a problem. You're now converting a golf course to residential. That is a serious consideration and should be something that this board should be concerned about. Thank you very much for your time, consideration, and good day.
My name is Christina Gilligan, and I live in Pine Ridge on Alamander Drive, not on the golf course. Madam Chair and members of the board, my husband Rod and I moved into Pine Ridge in 2022. We are not golfers or equestrian enthusiasts, but we chose Pine Ridge because of these large tracts of green space and the large home sites of a minimum of 1 acre. We bought into the master plan lifestyle that included a golf course. Mind you, we bought in 2022 is when we closed. For this golf course was closed. Pine Ridge's master plan includes 2 unique large acreage park parcels for community residents. By converting the golf course property to housing, which is home to some of the most beautiful natural surroundings and wildlife, whether playing golf or walking the land, will be to cut the heart of the Pine Ridge community and lifestyle we purchased. What about the infrastructure? Only 1 mile of roadway gets paved within Pine Ridge per year, and we have 141 miles in Pine Ridge. Think about it. The roads in my neighborhood will not be paved again in my grandchildren's lifetime. And the roadway is already cracked and eroding. How about the water sources? We currently are in extreme drought conditions per Citrus Chronicle article dated April 24, 2023, and only allowed to water once a week due to a water shortage since we moved here in 2022. So will you further restrict watering to once a month to accommodate all the new developments already approved, not to mention this new space? What about the landfill? Will that be the next issue? And why the gate? Why some of the gates? If some of the proposal doesn't even have gates, why the gates? If approved and they can get 5% without community input, what about the next ask of 5% more? And then 5% more and 5% more until it's fully developed. Just say no to homesite development on the current large green space, which is currently on the Pine Ridge master plan as golf course. There are developments that are now trying to add green space, and this developer wants to rob the Pine Ridge community of its large green space, and once gone, will never be replaced to the Pine Ridge community residents. There are developments that are neighborhood parks, but unique to Pine Ridge. We have 2 large parcels. Just say no to the land use change and leave the nature in the nature coast. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm David Noland. I live at 5590 North Rosedale Circle, and I agree with 95% of what's been said today. My only point, which this lady brought up over here about the finances, I'm looking at these diagrams. They're not carved in stone. They're flexible. They're still early diagrams. I see these 10 orphan houses by Alamandra and Crest. There's no reason for that. There's going to be roads cut. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but soon those roads are going to be cut to connect all those houses. All that green space is going to be gone. I just don't see a developer that develops half the property and then mows the other half. I don't think homeowners' fees will pay for that for long. They'd have to be extremely high homeowners' fees. That's about it. I thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John Strip. I live on the golf course, 3024 West Lantana Drive. My wife and I purchased this property because it was on the golf course. I just want to point out a couple facts, and one of those being that this property was taken off of the bid site before anyone in Pine Ridge in our community had an opportunity to purchase it. We have the 1,400 lots available in Pine Ridge to build on. These lots go between, let's say, 45 and 50,000 minimum per lot. Mr. Dix purchased this at less than $4,000 an acre. You know what? Maybe if you vote no, maybe the next person that buys it will buy it to be a golf course and not to put homes on. Thank you.
I'm Dana South. I live on 5530 North Elkham Boulevard. The Deltona Corporation platted approximately 222 acres of golf course in 1972 and filed the public service offering that same year with the Office of Interstate Sales and Registration in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Part 5 Recreation states approximately 222 acres was set aside for 18-hole golf course clubhouse located on the country club's estates neighborhood. And they had many revisions after that for several years. The residents purchased expecting that golf course to remain in place in that same area, which is in place today. This developer feels that your 1 acre home site submitted for that application that he submitted is going to meet your 1 acre requirements for the master plan and looks great because of the green space that he has. However, the fact remains that you have to have your approval to change our master plan to allow for housing and not recreation. Changing the master plan goes against that public service offering that I just read that is filed with HUD. Plus, we out here are not fooled that it's in plan. That is, if this application is approved, and I feel that he will not build his 85 homes that he says on this plan, but I can almost guarantee you that he will submit another application to amend the density to 2.5 units per acre. And oh yeah, he'll probably turn it down, but he'll wait and hold this property for another board that's more favorable to what his thinking is, and he'll submit it again and again because this property is very valuable. And he'll wait you out. He'll wait you out. He'll wait us all out. Because you've always heard reasonable doubt, and that makes sense here. Do the residents in Pine Ridge have a case against the applicants that approve this for not adhering to the public service offering? Well, maybe. That's probably a legal challenge. Will the developer resubmit for 2.5 units per acre or per acre? Well, maybe. It's probably a good possibility. But the best option for the residents out here is to vote no.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Ron Walser. I live on North Mallow Circle in Pine Ridge. Madam Chairman, members of the PDC, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today about the Dix proposal as it pertains to the Pine Ridge Golf Course and the negative effect it would have on our community. First, let me say, I'm very sorry that we have to be here today. I'm very sorry about the sleepless nights, the worry, and the concern for our community. I'm sorry that our county staff, our officials have had to invest so much time, effort, and resources into this proposal. When I talk to people about the fact that a developer has bought our golf course and wants to build houses on it, I get this reaction from everybody. Are you kidding me? They want to do what? As you can imagine, as you look at the number of people in this room today, this is not an acceptable proposal to this community. This proposal should be denied outright for so many reasons I can't possibly cite them all in just 3 minutes. So please allow me to quote our Citrus County Land Development Code as it relates to this proposal. In Chapter 1, Section 1300 describes the purpose and intent of our Land Development Code. Item C states its purpose is conserving the value of land, building, and resources and protecting landowners from adverse impacts of adjoining developments. Item D states its purpose is protecting the character and maintaining the stability of residential, agricultural, business, industrial, recreation, and public areas. Item F is for controlling and regulating growth of the county, concentrating more intense development in areas with high development capability and limiting development in areas of low capability. Item H requires balancing the interest of the general public in Citrus County and that of the individual property owners. Item I provides that we are protecting and, where necessary, preserving our valuable natural resources, including but not limited to ecological, significant land, water, resources, wildlife, habitat, fisheries, and threatened or endangered species. There is no compelling reason to approve the Dix proposal to remove the master plan overlay. It has protected our community for 50 years. Our community stands united in solidarity against this community-wrecking proposal, and we respectfully ask that you recommend no to this proposal. Thank you. And if I may, Madam Chairman, I'm the chairperson for our committee to save the Pine Ridge golf course. And due to the fact that we are a POA, it took some time to get things lined up, monies approved, et cetera, to get our counsel here today, Mr. Winter, and he represents Pine Ridge Association, and we'd like him to be able to speak for 5 minutes today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Zoned out or zoned out? That was good. I needed that. She says with confidence. That's good. I like it. That's good. That's good.
I think we all needed that.
Good afternoon. My name is Keith Bloom. I live at 4032 West Alamo Drive in the Pine Ridge Estates. I appreciate this opportunity to give you my personal perspective regarding the DIX development pertaining to our Pine Ridge Golf Course property. My wife Anne Marie and I located the beautiful Pine Ridge Estates in 2011 after looking for a place that offered large lots, horse trails, a golf course, and peace and serenity. We fell in love with Pine Ridge. Please don't let Dix get their way with these proposal changes. It will change Pine Ridge and the golf course as we know it. Their end result may be how many houses can we put on this acreage. Also, Pine Ridge property value will definitely be reduced. In closing, I'm asking and challenging all of you to do the right thing. There are certain things in life that you will never get a do-over. With you, one shot, I'm asking that all you do and you do it right. Keeping our golf course property and not building on it would help complete our beautiful Pine Ridge, as it is full of nature with many people enjoying nature walks, etc. We do not need more building lots, as there are about 1,000 lots still available in Pine Ridge. Please do not change the designation or change the master plan overlay, which has protected our community for over 50 years. Yes, 50 years. We stand united in solidarity against this community wrecking proposal. Thank you.
Before I start my 3 minutes, I would
Your
like
3
to
minutes have started. Go
Before
ahead.
I start my 3 minutes,
Go ahead.
I would like to thank each and every one of you for your integrity and your intent in listening to every resident here, even though it has been redundant. Thank you. My name is Stephen Schwartz, and I have lived in this community for a long time, including the fact that I have the original documents since 1973 when I purchased property from the original that they put in place with the state and the county. The vision by Mr. Olson and Deltona was communities of spacious estates similar to Pine Ridge. When Deltona went bankrupt, Pine Ridge became a homeowners association and golf course was sold. It became a rundown, defunct, and was sold to a developer that was denied building on the golf course and sold to Dick's. I understand the need of housing in the county. In the best interest of Pine Ridge and the rest of the county, start by denying the petition to rezone the golf course. If you don't, it will send a message to other communities that will soon be impacted in similar ways. My hope is that you start today by allowing like and similar building to take place, keeping the charm and beauty already in existence. Gating the community in is not like and similar. Infrastructure will never catch up if the growth is slowed. Zephyr Hills has stopped most of construction due to water supply concerns and the potential for lack of water pressure, preventing the department's ability to put out fires. Potential sinkholes will be brought calm from the deteriorated roadways. In less than 10 years, the tourism will be negatively affected due to the loss of manatees and nature from the building and the migration of displaced animals migrating to their areas. Moved tortoises only live 5 years as opposed to 10 or 20. My hope is that you will listen to all the residents telling you to slow down and build in balance with the master plan throughout the community. Will we look and feel like a Spring Hill, a Tampa, or maybe a Chicago? It starts with the decisions you make today by denying Dix's permission to rezone the golf course. The decisions you and the BOC make will be your legacy, which hopefully will keep the Nature Coast balanced and in harmony with all life so our tourism and businesses continue to thrive. You can't stop growth, but manage sensibly, only allowing like and similar. My shirt says we're all united and we stand together, hopefully, to keep the Nature Coast the way it was designed to be a long time ago, back in 1973.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tom Russell. I live at 5650 North General Point in Pine Ridge. And I'll try not to be redundant. I know there's been a lot said today that could be said by the many hundreds of people that couldn't make it to this meeting. Just point out a couple of things. I'll try and bring some new information. My home that we bought 4 years ago as a retirement home is just to the left of that blue circle there on the north side. One thing that has been brought up here in the planning is the topography of the golf course property. From where I sit, it's looking uphill about 35 feet. So that cluster of homes is on top of a hill, and everything from there slopes down. So if we start building homes in there, we're going to have water problems that are all going to filter down into this green area that I have. When I first saw this thing, I looked at the plan, I saw the green, I said townhomes, because it makes no sense to leave that as open space from a developer standpoint. I believe that should this overlay be removed, that we're not going to end up with this. We're going to end up with something that's probably worse. No one believes that it's going to stop at 85 homes at this point. And it was mentioned earlier about the trails being available for walking past. That's available only to the privileged residents of the gated community, not the rest of Pine Ridge. So golf course property was bought about a year ago. It was an operating golf course at that point. It was run down and hurting. It was perfect for somebody like me who was a hacker to go out there and whack the ball, which was my dream for retirement. It was shut down, and then it went dark. From that point on, Mr. Dix or anybody representing him, to my knowledge, never approached the board of directors, never approached the community with his plan to discuss it and maybe get some kind of buy-in. This is all kind of done in the dark, and this was dropped on us about maybe 2 months ago, if that. First sign that people knew about this was when the signs went up at the crossroads in different places here. And then the letters went out to the 500-foot affected people about 2 weeks ago. So we've never had an opportunity to really try and work through this thing. It's been dropped in, and I think I guess that it was expected that there'd be no opposition. So at the risk of being redundant, I urge you to vote no. I urge you to vote with the community, with the voters, with the people who already live here, and not in favor of people who really have no interest in our community. Thank you.
My name is Dennis McLaughlin, and I live at 5175 West Paiute in Pine Ridge. I'm not going to go over my entire list because basically it's said already, but I do have one thing that I don't think anybody said yet. And Mr. Dix is really impressive. He's a very smart man. And there's a reason that Mr. Dix brought this effort to the board at this time. And that's because if he were to bring this in January or December, you would need 5 rooms like this because the snowbirds aren't here. So you're not hearing everybody, and I'd like you to take that into consideration. You're only hearing a small portion of how the people feel in Pine Ridge. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Middleton South, and I live at 5530 North Elkham Boulevard in beautiful Pine Ridge Estates. I thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the PDC for allowing us the opportunity to present our personal perspective to oppose the Dix development pertaining to the Pine Ridge Golf Course application. We have heard that the Pine Ridge Golf Course has been mismanaged by previous owners. For example, the absentee owner from Texas who thought he could slide in and redevelop our community, and then he placed it on auction. With that auction, it was underhandedly purchased with the intent not to maintain or restore it as a golf course, but to change the overlay on the master plan to destroy our way of life, our green space, and create a community inside a community by adding an alleged 85 houses. Houses that are looking into our backyards, our pools, and our homes. Mind you, the other people that had expected to bid at this auction, they wanted to restore and make this golf course new again. They wanted to return it to where it was, that 225-acre golf course. It was also stated that it was in poor condition. Why? Because of the deliberate demise of the golf course to make it look worse than it actually is by not cutting the grass, unless code enforcement would demand cutting. Now, I've not seen it cut every month, and I live on the first fairway, and it's, at this point, 2 feet tall. Now, Citrus County, as we all know, is growing rapidly with 220,752 homes permitted here in Citrus County as of January of 2023. Currently in our community, Pine Ridge Estates, there are 55 unbuilt Pine Ridge golf course lots, 1,600 buildable throughout the community. What is my point? Why would Dix Development and the officials from Citrus County want to destroy a 220-acre golf course property in one of the fastest growing counties in Florida that will require additional recreational areas to meet the needs of its residents? Remember, we've got the Veterans Expressway Exchange almost dumping into Pine Ridge Boulevard, and that is going to change not only our county, but Beverly Hills forever. Why destroy 220 acres for an alleged 85 homes when we know the ultimate goal is to eventually change the overlay to add multifamily housing? Dix won't develop the property. He will sell out to a builder, just like we saw with Meadowcrest. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I guess that's what I agreed to.
For the record, Michael Weiner with Sachs and Kaplan, Boca Raton, Florida, here on behalf of Pine Ridge Association. Even with 5 minutes, I probably will only be able to deliver 5 of the 10 reasons why you cannot vote in favor of this particular project. Now, after I say that, I agree with Mr. Stillwell. He made a very good presentation to you. I agree, states shouldn't look at this. I agree that it predates the DRIs. We agree that it vests. Now that's interesting. If it vests the plan for everybody. So this isn't an idea or a concept of some property rights, but not other property rights. This is a concept of all property rights. And under those circumstances, you have to look at the property rights of those people in the master plan where it says golf right now on that master plan. And why? Because you put that into your code. You've heard a couple of times, and I know they repeated it to you, about 1,300. You know about the Deltona filings. They have property rights. Their property rights are equal to, if not greater than, someone who buys property where it says immediately, golf course. They know it. They got it. What Mr. Stillwell also said is it has to meet all the requirements. So let's see if it meets all the requirements in the 3 minutes and 32 seconds I have to be able to talk about this. So first of all, let's talk about your comprehensive plan. There's no discussion in the comprehensive plan. There's a mention of one provision in Part 2. Well, if you read all of Part 2, it starts off with, the county shall periodically review its current facilities inventory to meet the needs of the population through the year 2040. Your staff report doesn't say that's done. We don't know. We're taking away 6%, I think it is, of the open area. We have no idea what that's going to do to 2.1. It goes on. The Parks and Recreation section shall periodically review existing deficiencies in park recreational facilities. Now notice all these words. They want to say, well, but there's still a lot of open space. If you look in the English language dictionary, open space, those two words are not the same as recreation. They're not the same as parks. You can't just mix this all up, especially since your own comprehensive plan says that there are different categories and wants you to address them. Now, don't worry about rebuttal. You can't come up here and give you new evidence on this. Your staff report didn't look at it. They haven't made it part of the presentation. You can't vote for this because it doesn't meet the comprehensive plan, hasn't been analyzed. Down to 2 minutes. Give me a moment. Let's take a look at the traffic. All right. So they've come to you with traffic and they said it's about 80 in some kind of hours that has to do with peak hours. I don't know if it's 3 hours, 2 hours in the morning or the afternoon or anything else. There isn't a traffic engineer here. I can't cross-examine him. I just pulled up on my phone the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE. It's a standard study, 10th edition, approximately 9.43 trips per day for single-family detached housing. I do 84 or 85 times 9.43 quickly. That's certainly more than 800. Now, I don't even have time to talk to a traffic engineer here today, nor do you. The burden of proof in a quasi-judicial hearing lies on the applicant. He didn't meet the burden of proof. You can't vote for him today. Let me go to a third point. Sorry if I'm rushing around. I really have a good personality, but I'm not getting a chance to show it. Hold on, that's not... All right, we understand, and this is the first time I hear this, the linchpin of this argument, the linchpin, that's what Mr. Stillwell tells you, is that this golf course can't be run properly. Well, I don't know, I just looked on my phone. This is an article from Forbes magazine that was published May of 2023, May 9th of 2023, less than 2 months ago. Well, how does it start off? Golf holds a unique place among the most popular U.S. sports, namely in how much Americans play and spend money on the game. A new study released in conjunction with the 15th Annual National Golf Day reveals the direct economic impact of almost $102 billion. Did I get that right? I'm sorry, I'm going so fast. $102 billion on the U.S. economy, a 20% increase from 2016. Who's looked at the new numbers? Is there anybody here to testify
Thank you, Mr.
who's
Weiner.
an expert on the linchpin? No one. Under those circumstances, rebuttal makes no difference. They didn't meet the burden of proof. You have to vote against.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry
Thank
for
you.
those being so.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, please hold your applause, please. Are there any other comments?
And Madam Chair, the overflow rooms have emptied, so
Okay.
everyone's in here that wants
Okay.
to testify.
I apologize. My name is Wayne Steffen. I live on 5400 North Mallows in Pine Ridge Estates. Chairperson and members being in front of me, and the application by Mr. Dix of AA 2023-00003 pertaining to the golf course, the Pine Ridge Golf Course. There's no compelling reason to approve the Dix proposal. By removing the master plan and the overlay, it's been protected our lifestyle for 50 years. We stand solidity against the community wrecking proposal. My additional feeling is that I vote both national and election. So I feel 10,000 people from Pine Ridge that also vote is very serious for the election people to the BOCC. They might be your boss, but we elect. Mr. Dick's application that ends 3, he wants to change our current land usage from park recreation, which allows a golf course, to mixed usage, which was just mentioned. So I apologize if there's any repetitiveness in my information. I don't have time to readdress to what I've already written. Again, his application indicates building a small community within our community. It's improper for you to allow that to occur. Such changes, if they occur, it would expect to lower our Pine Ridge house value, regardless of the Pine Ridge property value wherever it's located. And therefore, it also might change property taxes and more. The commissioners have already approved thousands of homes to future built. What's the relatively to 85 lousy houses? To be contrary to our community, it makes no sense to me either. The commissioners, as I presume yourself in front of me, properly refused to attempt changes at Sugar Mills Woods. I expect you folks, and provide that information to our commissioners, to also refuse this application. Commissioners and the BOCC, just say no. I expect common sense exists in our community and the 5 BOCC. And I apologize for my lengthiness, but please say no.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other speakers? Going once, twice, seeing none. Okay, do we have a rebuttal from the applicant? Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, if you will please show courtesy.
Good afternoon. I will try and be brief. I have about 9 points to make here. And if I take them out of order or they're disjointed, I apologize.
Just talk into the microphone, please.
I'll do that. I can do that. And first off, I just want to correct the record. Mr. Pigeon grew up in Crystal River. Okay. He lived in this county for over 20 years before he moved to Marion County. And I've lived in this community since 1975 and raised 3 children here and own multiple pieces of property. So any money I'm making off of this stays here. All right. We've heard a lot about a community within a community. All right. There's nothing in the code that prohibits that. Nothing. No code citations. And in fact, we have communities within this community that have been very successful. Just look at Citrus Hills. There are communities within a community. Some are gated, some aren't. And in Beverly Hills, you have communities within a community. Some are gated and some are not. And they've all succeeded, both the existing homeowners that abut in those communities. There's been a lot of talk about the chemicals in the from the golf course. First off, any superintendent has minimum training requirements and has to meet minimum state standards relative to the use of those chemicals. Beyond that, Mr. Dix has a phase 1 environmental report he did. We'll be glad to provide that phase 1 environmental report as a condition of the biological study, which will be done at the time of permitting. In the phase 1 environment, if that phase 1 environmental report was bad, would he even propose building homes and when the liability that goes with it? So beyond the fact that he has done his due diligence is the fact that this is pure and utter speculation and conjecture, which leads me to the next point. There's competent substantial evidence. You've heard this term many, many times. And then there's speculation, and then there's conjecture. Speculation is that there's going to be subsequent filings amending this, adding additional units. Conjecture is that there's going to be affordable housing when your own staff has indicated that affordable housing is not part of this application. Speculation is that there's going to be multifamily when your own staff has testified that it can't happen. Speculation and conjecture is that there's going to be apartments. Speculation is that there's going to be higher density. That's speculation and conjecture. This application stands on what's before you know, the future and how it could change. And as Ms. Coutu pointed out to you, any change would come back in front of you and the Board of County Commissioners. Ms. Skaggs, I wanted to address your point about lot width. The lower lot widths are on the cul-de-sacs only. If you look at the master site plan, you'll see that other lots all are wider. So that's why you have that number there, just the cul-de-sacs. A lot of discussion, representations about taking out green space and open space. The vested rights letter says it's a golf course. A golf course, private, not public, that's a commercial enterprise. Within the vested rights letter and within your land development code mapping, there is no minimum open space standards or maximum. Now, you're familiar with that term because when we do projects in this community, we sit there and say there's going to be X number of houses and X number of open space. Here, it's a golf course. Now, it may be green in the sense of the common use of the word, but legally it is not open space. It's a golf course with no minimum or maximum required. Discussion on the buffers and the opacity, common practice of this board in the county has been to set an opacity standard on the buffer. If you want that, you put 50% within 3 years, and you achieve that breakup if the people want that. Again, I repeat that that buffer exceeds code. It's not required under code. A lot of discussion about there's no need for this, no reason. That's not the test, okay? test is plan consistency. If you look in your future land use element and you read those charts and they project out the population of this county, the future land use element indicates the need for additional residential units in this county. And it's because of that, you have a previously approved projects like Lecanto Preserve this month in February, where you added 800 units. Why would you do that if there was a needs test? No, it's the test is the plan, and the plan says, because of our population growth, we need additional residential units. Now, a lot of testimony about Chapter 1 and Section 13 of the Land Development Code, and that was read to you. That is Chapter 1, and then Chapter 1 is addressed by Chapter 4, the PUD standards. And within the framework of statutory construction, those generalized characteristics in Chapter 1, followed by the more specific characteristics in Chapter 4 in the PUD, the specifics control of Chapter 4. And your planners have indicated we meet the PUD test. And they also have indicated we're compatible. The final comment I have to you, and it is redundant, is, again, land use districts, land use planning, land PUDs, okay? And land use codes allow for modifications and have always allowed for modifications. Communities change, and then the need changes. Here, you know, Mr. Rainier got up and told you all about how much golf impacts the economy, but he didn't refute that 390 golf courses closed in 2019. He didn't refute that 50 golf courses have closed in the United States this year, 190 some last year. And he didn't refute that of the 12 golf courses that used to exist in this community, only 8 now are open. So that ties in with the comprehensive land use plan's private property rights element. And it basically says a landowner has the right to develop and use their property in a reasonable manner if you meet code. The staff report says we meet code. We've submitted a reasoned project, 85 units with 110 acres of open space. Be mindful that 110 acres of open space is going to be open space now, not a golf course, open space, which means that the standards for change would apply. So it is in fact getting more protection, that 110 acres, than it currently has under the current vested rights level.
Madam Commissioner, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can we please have some quiet, just so we can hear, please? Thank you. Sorry, madam.
So the private property rights section of your comprehensive land use plan, it's not to be ignored. It has to be addressed, and it hasn't been refuted here. So we'd ask for approval because it is, in fact, a good project. And in fact, it will restore value back to the abutting houses, because if it remains as, quote, a golf course under the master plan and it's not in use, the impact of value which has already occurred, will continue and accumulate and grow worse. So, any questions?
I don't see any.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will close the, I'm sorry, sir, you are out of order. I'm sorry, sir, you're out of order. Please, sir, I'm sorry.
You need to hear it, because he got to talk twice, I should be able to. Is that okay? What do you think?
No.
No? Okay, never mind.
At this time, we will close the public portion of the meeting and bring the discussion back to the board. Who wants to start?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Facemeyer.
Just to get things started, and I have a number of things that well, we can talk about when we get into the discussion, but several people have, this morning through public comments, implied that we are elected officials. We are not. We're not compensated. We're not elected. So those who are threatening our removal at the ballot box, feel free. And I do thank all those who spoke for their decorum and their sincerity, and we'll let this whole process play out. But thank you for your respect, for being respectful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Facemeyer. Anybody else?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Bramlett.
Just to kind of piggyback off of what Mr. Facemeyer already started with, we are actually appointed representatives, and we actually represent the cross-section of the county. So I want to let you know that a lot of times what happens is in these meetings, we get an us versus them mentality, but we are you too. Everybody that's on this board lives here. We live in the community. I've lived in this community since 1975. I live, sell, work, raise kids in the community. Everything that happens within these four walls affects everybody that's on this board too. So nobody that is up here making a decision, whether that decision is in what you believe it should be or what you believe it shouldn't be, it affects all of us. So I just want to make sure that we have that clear and up front. For the most part, I would say thank you to the attendees, because we've had a lot of people here with green shirts, red shirts, blue shirts, now the black shirts. We get a lot of civil unrest, and I can understand that. There's a lot of passion. I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about land use, because if you saw the check that we were drawing for this, we've been here since 9 o'clock. You would understand that this is a volunteer position. Nobody up here is getting paid. We get accosted. There's a lot of dealing with you people. We deal with the finger pointing. People like you guys that are making these decisions for us. That's not the way this really works. It does not work that way. You have a cross section of Citrus County that the Board of County Commissioners appointed to represent the people, if you will, in all different walks of life. This is a very good board. I've been a part of this board for a very long time. This is probably the best and most cerebral board that I've ever been a part of. I think that you guys should be thankful that you actually have a board that is as thoughtful and as deliberate as this one is, because in the past I've seen some that would not treat matters the way that they get treated in the current climate. Speaking to the private property rights, like Mr. Stillwell said, everybody that is on in this room has private property. They own that property. They want to develop. They want to do the things that they want to do to that property. There are deed restrictions in place for certain areas. People that want to have property kept a certain way, they live in those deed restricted areas. People that don't want to live in a deed restricted and they want to do what they want to do, they don't live in deed restricted areas. They live in areas outside of that. It's everybody has their own choices in life and in your private property rights. Mr. Dix has his choices in private property rights as well. He can choose to do what he would like to do with this property based on the code and based on the test. We are provided with a staff analysis. We review this staff analysis. Do you guys see how thick this is? We read almost every single page of this. We've listened to about 50 speakers today. The overwhelming theme that I often hear and we get thrown at us that tends to perturb me a little bit is the rubber stamp analogy. There's no rubber stamp on any of this that happens. No rubber stamping in Citrus County. I've lived here for 40 something years, and I remember when they used to call Citrus County Circus County, because it's hard to develop in Citrus County. And it's hard to develop in Citrus County because it should be. We're keeping the nature in the nature coast. Over 55% of this county is deemed wildlife sanctuary, state forest, preserve, some sort of property that will never be developed. That is what's going to keep Citrus County unique. So the plenty of places in those spaces, it's always the NIMBYism. Everybody says, well, there's plenty of other places that you can develop. But guess what happens when the developers go to those other places? We have a room full of people with red shirts on then. You guys are the black shirts, then it's the red shirts. Everybody is going to argue about having the development in their backyard. So what this board is tasked with doing is to trying to find and make a balance with what's best with the least and the least amount of impact on the surrounding areas. I was going to talk about a lot of the conjecture and the projecting, but Mr. Stillwell did a better job of that than I would. I would just say that I feel like as a homeowner association, a homeowners and a homeowners association, that sometimes we should probably embrace what we do know versus allowing to what we don't know to happen. What do I mean by that? We have a developer that lives in the area that is familiar with Citrus County and understands the dynamic. We've had developers come in here in the past that I am surprised that, or that I would be surprised that they didn't put houses on this complete property, develop the entire property. So instead of being upset that he isn't, and you believe that it's going to be multifamily and developed more intense, how about embrace what we do know now? Let's just say, so you don't know the makeup of a new board, where what the new PDC may be. You don't know the developer that may or may not want to come and develop this property in the future. What you do know is you know that this is a nice project, less than what it could be in a community that is full of houses that they're going to add 85 more houses. So I'm sorry, this is not an exchange. You guys got your 50 people times 3 minutes. Do the math. We get our opportunity to speak, okay? So thank you. I would just say that I am in favor of the application. I think that this is a well thought out plan. It has been over and up. The decision by the developer is over and above what is required by the code. And sometimes I think that the fear of the unknown versus what we do know should be taken a little bit more into consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner Bramlett. Anyone else?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I thought I was the elephant in the room.
Commissioner Barnes.
I came here this morning with 100% thinking that this was a great plan. I still believe it's a great plan. I believe the golf course, as being an avid golfer, the communities around a golf course represent the golf course. And if you don't go play golf in your golf community, then who's going to support it? And I just felt like looking at the plan, looking at what Mr. Dix could have done, 85 homes is a small number of homes that he could have built. I just, I'm still on the fence, but I really believe I'm in support of this. I just want to hear the rest of the board.
Commissioner Bass?
First off, thank you everyone for all your comments. I understand passion is very, very, important. We all have passions on different things. It's a shame that the golf course had its issues and that it closed, because I'm sure it's nice having a golf course. I live in a community that has a golf course. I don't golf. God bless all that do. But based on what we've heard, it sounds like that this golf course was never extremely well supported from the beginning of time through now. And I understand there are several people who talked about, the squirrels and the rabbits and this and that are out there. Yes, it's a shame that they might be displaced by this, but I think that we have a developer here who is trying to come up with some game plan that fits into what is there right now relative to the style of homes that he wants to build, the size of the lots. As someone was questioning about the width of the lots, and I think it was stated at the end that 100-foot applies to the homes that are on the cul-de-sac. Otherwise, it sounds like they're going to be 200 by 200-foot lots, more or less. So I think that this gentleman appears to have tried to mimic the remainder of Pine Ridge to the greatest extent possible. There was issues with, a development or a community, a gated community within a community. I live in a gated community, and there is a gated community within the gated community. So it's not an unusual thing. I believe that this is probably the best that you're going to get at this point in time on this parcel for homes. He could have built far more. And
Ladies and gentlemen, please. I'm sorry. This is the discussion from the board now. We've had your time, and if you would please respect ours.
and
Sir, please.
And it's, as far as I understand from the application, he's indicated that of the 220 acres, he was going to commit 120 plus or minus to open space, which means that's preserved. We're not touching it. He's not coming back. He can't change that to a single family, a multifamily, whatever other development that you want. So I think I'm in favor of this project as been proposed to us. And as my colleague next to us said, I'd like to continue to hear what the other commissioners have to say though. And with that, I'd like to return it back to the chair.
Thank you. I'm just going to give my opinion now. I think that most of the commissioners who have spoken have already set the table pretty well, particularly Commissioner Bramlett, Commissioner Facemeyer. I also appreciate all of your comments. I listened intently, trying to find the testimony or evidence that would make a difference, in my opinion, on this application. I didn't find it. I find the development, the project is compatible with the surrounding area, and the golf course is no longer in business. You know, the easiest thing for us to do would be to say what you want us to say, but the fact of the matter is the law and the facts in this application don't support me finding not in favor of this application. So for that reason, I too am in favor. Commissioner Scraggs, sorry.
You're gonna have to get up to your microphone. Don't be afraid of
Put your teacher voice on.
Here we go. I'm still finding that the minimum setbacks and sizes are not compatible with the homes that are around it. A rear 25 feet is definitely not compatible with another home that's on an acre. The sides of 25 feet definitely are not compatible to any of the homes that are on the golf course, nor 40 feet from the front. If we changed it to 125 or 150 feet for the width, and we changed it to a front of, say, 50, and the sides of, say, 30, and the rear of at least 50, maybe more, it would be compatible with what's there now. But as this is, I could not vote for it. It's definitely not compatible with a 1 acre lot.
Thank you, Commissioner Scraggs. Commissioner Facemeyer?
I've been golfing for 40 years, and I'm the first to admit I'm not very good at it, but doesn't keep me from trying to get better. But I do know, and I am familiar with many courses that I've played in those 40 years that are a similar business model to what I believe Pine Ridge Golf Course has been. It's a privately held business that is open for public play. It's for anybody that's got the green fees, that's willing to show up there, that's fine. It's no different than any other private business. The property that it's built on is just, maybe this is an extreme analogy, but it's no different than a restaurant being closed after hours. When it's closed, it's closed. You know, and it's private property, and the next owner can do what they are allowed to by law when they purchase it. However they acquire it, it's their choice. Having said that, I'd like to lean on County Council for just a few words about just a few words.
Haven't I said enough today?
Yeah, I thought you've been pretty quiet. This, just so we're clear, this is a change in the master plan. This is not a change in zoning or anything like that. Our board is charged with making decisions based on the evidence presented to us. And, we may be inclined to be sympathetic towards those who spoke, but our job is to do what's prescribed by law. That's your cue.
Was that a question?
Well, it was a lead-in.
I
How's
don't.
that?
I don't disagree with anything you said.
Okay.
Madam
For-
Chair, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm about to
Um,
make a motion, but if you
Okay,
want
I just wanted to go over the
somebody.
conditions for a second with our planner, just to make sure that we're on the same page here. In regards to number 3, just a clarification, I believe you had stated that those minimum lot coverages, front, sides, and rear, is what was currently in the Pine Ridge approvals from prior years.
Correct. For single-family residential, that is the minimum lot size, ISR, and setbacks.
Okay.
We were asking to strike the 20% maximum project-wide ISR. That's not something in Pine Ridge, and that's not very practical.
Okay.
But
And
the
then-
50% ISR is what the current standards are for development within the Pine Ridge.
On item number 6, I believe we said we are gonna change it to central water and advanced septic system.
Correct. Advanced septic tank systems, yes.
Okay. I also believe that we had talked about adding it to a 5-year timeframe.
Correct. That was an additional condition requested by the applicant to allow a 5-year rather than a 3-year expiration.
Okay. Also, I personally would like to indicate that the applicant needs to submit the Phase 1 environmental report as part of the permit process. I believe Attorney Stillwell offered that up as part of his rebuttal. I would like to see that as one of our conditions.
Reviewing what exactly?
In regards to the testing of the soil and any contaminants that might have been left behind from the golf course to ensure that the residents are living on a clean piece of
Yeah.
soil.
We don't have a criteria in our code for soil. Obviously, as part of the stormwater plans, they're gonna have to do some kind of soil boring testing. But I have no criteria in the code to say it must be such and such clean soil. I don't have anything in there to review that with.
Are you trying to get at just because Clark offered it, you want to make it part of the file?
I think what they were talking about is an environmental Phase 1.
Yeah, Clark said that they've completed a Phase 1. Are you just wanting him to make it part of the file?
I want to make part of the project so that we can be assured that these homes are built on a clean piece of soil. Because again, of what the various chemicals that are used during a golf course, and I don't want to see an issue with people living on a dirty piece of soil. Possible to clarify that. And this was one of my comments long before Clark even brought it up. So Clark had no influence on that statement. That was, because even if you noticed earlier in the presentation, I asked Mr. Pigeon about that. So it was a concern right from the very beginning.
Is an
not be-
environmental part of the building permitting process?
I think Mr. Bass has gone beyond.
Yeah, soil borings and things for construction to be able to support construction, stormwater to be able to meet stormwater. We don't have a criteria for.
Then I would like this Phase 1 submitted at a minimum then.
Yeah, I mean, there's a distinction between him saying, I want to make sure that the people are building on soil that's not contaminated, and we want to see a copy of the environmental study. Those are two separate things.
Okay.
I don't know that you have any provision in the code that to ensure that people aren't building on contaminated sites. I don't know how we do that.
Okay. And then the
But
other-
we can actually ask the applicant to make that a part of the record, and they might just agree to that, since
That-
Mr. Stillwell offered it.
That would be great if the applicant would do that. That would be fantastic. Also, we had talked briefly about the opacity on the buffer. Can we do anything about improving that buffer to make sure that it is a decent buffer? Can we add any undergrowth in there?
That's entirely up to you. Right now, it's worded as a minimum 20-foot wide natural buffer. It's not really required, like we said, between residential, but that's up to you. You know, we have the various types, you know.
I don't know how anybody else feels, but that was just one of my concerns based on what we're hearing from the residents. I don't know how any other board members feel.
I I mean, if you leave a 20-foot natural vegetative buffer that remains uninterrupted, what does it turn into over time? Turns into much more opaque, right? Where,
Valid point. Valid
I
point.
mean, if it's just undisturbed, 20-foot strip of undisturbed land, it's gonna do what it's gonna do. And then guess what's gonna happen? Because I've seen it at Sugar Mill Woods. People start mowing it anyway. They turn it into their yard and.
Okay.
You know,
Valid point. Okay. Thank you. You want to read it, Stacy? You want me to? Oh,
He's got it.
For a purpose of the motion.
Oh, Commissioner Barnes.
Yes. The Planning and Development Commission finds application number AA-2023-00003 consistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and Citrus County Land Development Code, and that this board recommends approval with conditions as stated of the application to the Board of County Commissioners based upon the evidence and testimony presented and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Barnes, a second by Commissioner Bass.
Madam
Any-
Chair.
Yes.
That the conditions are as amended and read by Ms. Katu.
Okay.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
As amended? Okay.
Right, can we talk about those conditions real quick? Because I wrote down the changes. I just want to make sure we're clear for everybody in the room. Number 3, we're striking the 20% maximum project wide.
Correct.
Number 6, we're removing the central sewer and adding advanced septic system.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've added a number 13, which is a 5-year versus a 3-year time frame.
Right.
And then we were sort of waffling about what would have been number 14 and what exactly that means with the phase 1.
Right, as pro-offered by the applicant, a copy of the Phase 1 environmental study submittal shall be provided at the time of, I would suggest, plating, because that's when they start infrastructure.
And what does that mean? That just means that phase 1 is of public record, that people can look at it.
Correct.
That's it. That's all it means.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just submittal.
It's just an opportunity for somebody to look at it.
It would be part of the record.
Correct. Okay. All right.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1.
And Madam Chair, just for the audience, this has been scheduled tentatively with the County Commission on September 12th at 5:01. That's in the Commission Chambers in Inverness.
Thank you. Thank you. If you all could please exit quietly, we're going to continue the meeting. It came to my attention with this wacky wild morning that I skipped over the roll call, so if you want to do that for the record.
Ms. Cheryl, can you do the roll call, please?
Our wonderful logistics man caught it.
Thank you.
The following. I have no mic. The following Planning and Development Commission members were present today. Stacy Worthington, Chair. Richard Barnes, First Vice Chair. Robert Bass. David Bramblett. Michael Facemeyer. Alternate Carol Scragg. Alternate Timothy Gilbert.
And Chuck Dixon.
And Chuck Dixon, School Board Representative.
Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion today, Board?
Yes,
Joanna?
please. Your next meeting is canceled. We have a break after this one, thank goodness. We will see you again on August 17th. We have 3 applications on there. Both of your meetings in September have 4 applications, some of which are large as well. So a lot of work coming, but enjoy a couple weeks off. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for all of your time and attention today. No more discussion. Meeting adjourned.
Good job, Madam Chair.